Hello there guys, and welcome to this weekend, welcome to Sunday's race here for IFMC IndyCar here at DTM. I'm JWF1 and we are here at the Daytona road course for 80 laps of action here for round 2 of the season 4-5 IFMC IndyCar Championship. And we did see what happened in qualifying yesterday. It was a very interesting qualifying session, it must be said. Just going to turn up the fan a little bit, but it was a very interesting qualifying session. But in the end, it was Fernando Alonso, the 3-time IFMC champion, who stuck it on pole position, giving his and E-Power's first ever IndyCar pole, with Helio Castroneves second and rookie Robert Wickens running out the top 3 in his adrenaline car. Very impressive qualifying from him there, and it should be very interesting to see how he gets on today. As mentioned, we've got 80 laps of action coming your way, and it should be a very interesting race, that's for sure. So before we start then guys, let's mute this, turn this up a little, and let's have a look at the grid for today's race here at Daytona. Here we go then. So, on pole position is Fernando Alonso with Helio Castroneves in second, Robert Wickens is in third with Joseph Newgarden in fourth. The two Meccano cars lock out row 3 with Gabby Chavez fifth and Pietro Fittipaldi in sixth. Defending champion Sebastian Bourdais is in 7th with Scott Dixon in 8th. Ryan Hunter-Reay starts 9th with James Hinchcliffe rounding out the top 10. Tony Kanaan, a very impressive 11th in the SIC. Ed Jones disappointed with 12th. JR Hildebrand 13th with Graham Rahal in 14th position. 15th, a disappointing Marco Andretti way off the pace of teammate Wickens. That's Max Chilton in 16th position. Simon Pagenaud very disappointed in 17th, as is Will Power in 18th. As his early championship leader Alexander Rossi is in 19th, followed by teammate Takuma Sato, two Fantarrys locking out row 10. And on the back row of the grid we have two Red Rose racing cars, Felix Rosenqvist 21st and Juan Pablo Montoya in 22nd position. And that is the grid for the race here at Daytona road course. So there is the grid then guys for today's race. It should be a very interesting race, and the weather of course being bright and sunny. So leave your predictions, but without further ado, as I just cool the fan down just a bit, without further ado, let's get to the 80 lap race here at Daytona. So here we are then on the grid then. It is Alonso on the right of your screens, Castroneves on the left. Who's going to get the lead into turn 1 as we wait for the 5 red lights to go off to see the start of the race here at Daytona. It should be a long race ahead, but hopefully a very good one indeed. 1 light is on, 2 lights are on, 3 lights are on, 4 lights are on, 5 lights are on. And it is go here at Daytona, and it's a good start from the front too. It looks like everybody's going well, mainly even from Robert Wickens. In fact, Robert Wickens has got an even better start than Helio Castroneves as they go down towards the first few turns on the racetrack now then. Wickens lost his second place, gets in front of Helio Castroneves on this short run down to turn 1. Everybody going around these first few turns okay, it seems everywhere. Montoya gets a jump on Rosenqvist, but it's Alonso closely followed by Wickens in the lead of the race now then. Castroneves also trying to follow suit behind these guys as well, as they just go out of this right-hander now and heading up towards the left-hander on the racetrack, as Castroneves still trying to get hold of Wickens right behind. Castroneves again looking to the right-hand side of Robert Wickens now. Can he retake second from the Canadian? No, not quite. Wickens fending him off into the right-hander there to keep hold of second place. He's got Newgarden all over the back of him as well, so he's got to keep an eye on him as well as he make the way into the left-hander now then for the first time today. Out of the turn we go. He's got the two Meccano cars line astern. Not really much changes as Kanaan has got up to 9th. A good start from him after starting from 11th. 2 places gain at the start as they now make their way around the banking now for the first time today. Alonso starting to get a gap between himself and Robert Wickens. Between them at the moment as Wickens is busy fending off from Castroneves. Castroneves using his oval experience to go around the outside now then of Robert Wickens, and he goes down towards the bus stop chicane and he gets second. Newgarden also trying to follow through as well. Newgarden on the inside of Robert Wickens into the chicane, and in fact Castroneves also having to defend into the chicane. Newgarden up into 3rd place. Bourdais down the inside of Fittipaldi and gets sick from him now then as they make their way around the bus stop for the first time today. Kanaan gets up to 8th. He's past Dixon. That's P8 for the Brazilian veteran. JR Hildebrand still losing time in the pack. In fact, he's down to 13th as Rossi and Rosenqvist have come together at the bus stop chicane. The championship leader and Felix Rosenqvist have come to blows. Let's have a look at the replays. You can see Sato making a pass on his own teammate into the bus stop. Rossi loses it a bit bit, he goes wide, and then just rejoins right in the path of Felix Rosenqvist. I don't know if Rossi actually got hit by maybe Montoya into that chicane. We'll have to have a look, maybe from Rosenqvist's perspective. Let's see, did Montoya maybe tag Rossi, or was that just a pure error from the American? And it just looks to me like a pure error from the championship leader, and he just rejoins dangerously into the path of Alexander Rossi. We can save time, could argue that Rosenqvist could have done a little bit better to avoid him, so that incident will be investigated after the race as Rossi and Rosenqvist come to blows. Rossi's even in the wrong direction. He needs to try and get the top car turned around very quickly, but that's going to cost him time in his championship pursuit. But at the end of lap 1 now then, here at Daytona, there's so much going on. It's Alonso leading Castro-Neves with Wickens side by side with him. In third place, Wickens side by side coming into turn 1, and Wickens claims second. Chavez down the inside of Newgarden and Castro-Neves. Into turn 1 we go, and that's beautiful overtake from Gabby Chavez. P3 for the young Colombian. A fantastic pass from him indeed. And wow, look, so much action going on in the field. That's the advantage of having a oval course. It provides a mixture of a road course and oval feel as well. Rossi has got the car going. Kanaan sets the fastest lap. It's Alonso leads, Wickens second, Chavez third, Castro-Neves fourth, Newgarden fifth, Fittipaldi sixth, Bordet seventh, and Kanaan rounding out the top 8. Indeed, as Chavez now looks to the inside of Robert Wickens into the right-hander. Has Chavez got the move done? And yes, he has. Up into second place goes Gabby Chavez in the Macamo car, as Castro-Neves is having to fend off from Joseph Newgarden. Now the Newgarden still trying to find a way through. In fact, Castro-Neves has other bigger fish to fry. He's trying to try and find a way back through on Wickens, but Wickens shuts the door into the left-hander as they make their way back on the oval. All is battling and is allowing Alonso to just pull away a little bit from the rest of the pack, as he now just goes around the banking now then for the second time today. Castro-Neves has now got Newgarden all over him, as meantime Fittipaldi having to fend off from Sebastian Bourdais. Going around the banking now then we go. Castro-Neves side by side, in fact with Wickens again. These two again fighting it out for third place. Castro-Neves gets third. Newgarden trying to take advantage again into the chicane. That's P4 for the target Andy Graham. Can he try and out-track Castro-Neves into the chicane? No, he can't. He looks up and goes a bit deep as Wickens nearly close to contact there, and Newgarden had to back off as a result. He's down to 6th. He loses the place to Fittipaldi as well, and now he's got a whole gang of guys behind him, and a huge crash for Tony Kanaan. Kanaan has flipped it out of the chicane, and a huge crash for the Brazilian, as wow, everybody's trying to get around him, and a huge accident for Tony Kanaan in the SIC. Let's have a look and see what on earth happened there, as he goes around the outside of Bordet there, and as you can see, just going around the left-hander, and Bordet just turns into Kanaan there, and a huge accident as enthralled there. The defending champion turns in to Tony Kanaan's SIC, and that will have to be investigated after the race. A huge accident for Tony Kanaan in the SIC, and wow, some investigations need to be done. He's even held up a Silicon Valley racing car. I think that might be Simon Pagenaud he's holding up there. But Kanaan out of the race, and we're down to 21 runners. A huge accident for Tony Kanaan. Alonso sets the fastest lap of the race. I hope Kanaan is okay from that accident, because that was a huge moment for the Brazilian. And wow, the marshals doing everything they can to hoist him over the barriers and get him away to safety. But a huge accident for Tony Kanaan, and that incident will be investigated after the race. As Gabby Chavez now, they're trying to chase down Alonso in front if he can, looking to see if he could try and get the lead of this race, of course. In only his second ever IFMC IndyCar race, he's definitely showing some signs of impression. The last time we saw him in the IFMC fraternity was in IFMC GP2, all the way back in the second season of that, and didn't do particularly well, along with teammate Ricky Collar at the time. But definitely this IndyCar is suited to this driver's style, must have improved a lot since we last saw him, and now he's trying to chase Alonso down for the lead of the race. As it's 4 Hondas leading the field, but Wickens trying to have a look at Fittipaldi, unseen by the cameras. Fittipaldi, while we were looking at Kanaan's crash, has actually got up into 4th, but Wickens isn't having none of it. He's trying to get him back if he can, but in fact, having saying that, of course, Fittipaldi looking to the inside of Castro-Neves, trying to get both Macamo cars onto the podium as they make their way into the bust-up chicane, and Fittipaldi, has he got 3rd from Castro-Neves? Yes, he has. That's P3 for Fittipaldi. Castro-Neves now in the clutches of Robert Wickens as they make their way out of the bust-up chicane now then. And we ride on board with the Canadian now then, as he makes his way around the banking, as in fact Castro-Neves is in fact not giving up on Fittipaldi as they continue to scrap it out for third. Casanovas again looking to the outside of Pietro Fittipaldi, and that's P3 again for the Brazilian. So up to third again goes Helio Casanovas, but I say that, of course, his fellow compatriot's still sticking there, but Casanovas shuts the door as they cross the line to start another lap there then, as Bourdais all the way down in 8th after being held up there a little bit, that little bit of contact he had with Tony Kanaan, as Ryan Hunter-Reay currently 9th. Max Chilton, in fact, fighting him out for 9th place as they go side by side into turn 1. And Chilton trying to hang it around the outside of Ryan Hunter-Reay if he can, but just not able to pull the move off that time by. There's Hinchcliffe, there's Jones, there's Montoya, still fighting it out at this stage. Meantime, now then Rossi trying to make his way up back through the field. Chavez still keeping within touching distance of Alonso at this stage of the race, as Casanovas still fending off of Fittipaldi and Wickens as these guys continue to fight for third place in this race. Now then, round the left-hander we go as Fittipaldi tries to line up Casanovas for a pass yet again around this racetrack as they now go into the oval section. Out goes Felix Rosenqvist. Rosenqvist is out of the race. What has happened to the Swede? Rosenqvist is out. Whereabouts is he on the track? And there he is. And he's crashed out at turn 1. And, well, that is it's either a driver error from Rosenqvist or somebody actually tagged him off the track. But Rosenqvist has crashed out. And Felix Rosenqvist is out of the race. And we're down to 20 runners here at Daytona. And it just looks like a simple error from the Swede. And race over for Felix Rosenqvist, who's rumoured in real life to even take part in IndyCar next year with Chip Ganassi alongside Scott Dixon. But Felix Rosenqvist out. We're down to 20 runners in the space of a couple of laps, it must be said. And, well, that's that really as far as they're concerned. Meantime, we look at Pietro Fittipaldi, who's back on the prowl of Helio Casanovas as they go side by side round the banking. Will Pietro get the move done again on his fellow compatriot around the outside? And that's P3 for Pietro. So both Meccano cars now onto the podium. Wickens, though, unable to take full advantage of that as they now make their way into the bus-stop chicane for what I think is either the 4th or 5th time today. It's the 4th time today. As now just going around the chicane we go. We'll have a look at the fuel loads actually. So we've got 23.1 for Alonso, 23.1, 24.2, 23.1, 25.2, 24.2, 30.2, 21.2, 28.2, 26.2, 15.3, 15.2, 29.2, 26.2, 13.3, 21.2, 15.2, 26.2, 27.2, 16.2, and that is that really as Alonso starts lap number 5 of the race, and Casanovas retakes third again from Fittipaldi. So these two have been battling it out for a few laps now for this final podium place, and these two have not been giving up on each other, that's for sure. Pretty much fighting each other to tooth and nail, it must be said. Wickens has now fell back a little bit from this scrap for third, as now they made their way around the right-hander as they use a little bit of curb on the outside, as Chavez in fact has lost a little bit of time in fact to these two guys. I wonder if he's made a mistake. I think I don't know. Has Chavez made a mistake? I think he's lost a bit of time. I would think that Chavez might have made a mistake there as his teammate goes down the inside of Casanovas again into that right-hander, and that's P3 for Pietro Fittipaldi yet again. So again, these two Brazilians switching places, left probably hammer and tongs at this stage, and so that's pretty much that, as Bourdais starting to close back in onto Scott Dixon for 7th place. So these two looking to scrap it out again for those places, as Hunter-Reay holding off Hinchcliffe for 9th place so far in the race, as Chilton's currently 13th, as Rahal's now down in 20th. So something has happened to Graham Rahal and we're unable to catch it. So whatever's happened, Rahal down to 20th. He must have made a mistake somewhere, and well, another disappointing race for Rahal. He's not getting any luck so far in the first 2 races. He didn't get any good luck last time out thanks to mechanical problems, and it looks like some more bad luck has crept in the way of Graham Rahal so far this season. And the guy just can't seem to get a break, can he? As here's Fernando Alonso now then, just making his way around the banking now then, as he'll soon start lap number 6 of 80 here at Daytona, as Pietro Fittipaldi has again lost the place to Helio Casanovas. Casanovas again retaking third, but Pietro having none of it. He's going to back down the outside of his fellow compatriot. Wickens again just continuing to lose time to these two as they now go side by side, and Fittipaldi has got the place. That's P3 for Pietro, the grandson of 2-time Formula 1 World Champion Emerson Fittipaldi, and I think he's also a 2-time Indy 500 winner. For one side, out goes Takuma Sato. Sato out of the race. What has happened to Taku? And there he is, and he's crashed out himself. He's crashed out at the bus stop chicane. Did he hit someone, or was it just pure error from Taku? And, well, he's lost his rear wheel. And that's race over for Taku. And he's made contact with Will Power, that seems. And, well, did Will Power make a mistake and rejoin right into the path of Sato? I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to look at Will Power's onboard to get some form of clarification from that. As let's have a look. And, yeah, it does look like he made a mistake and rejoined right in the path of Sato. So that will have to be investigated after the race. That's 2 incidents of that chicane needing to be reported. As Power now then, has he got a little bit of damage on his car? He has. He's lost a bit of front wing, and he'll have to make a trip to the pits as a result. So an unscheduled stop for Will Power in this race. That's the 2nd incident in a row that he's been involved in an incident. Last time out it wasn't his fault. This time around it could well be his fault. And the man he had the collision with was the man we're actually viewing now, Pietro Fittipaldi, last weekend at Bubba Motorsports Park in Alabama. And so far, he's having to fend off this final podium place from fellow compatriot Helio Castroneves, as they just go around this left-hander now then up towards the hairpin. Castroneves not close enough to make a pass that time by. Meantime, his teammate, Sebastian Bourdais, all over the backside of Scott Dixon for 7th place. Power into the pits to get a new front nose and maybe even a change of strategy as well. We'll wait and see what Dorado come out with in terms of Will Power's unscheduled stop. As now, through the left-hander goes Bourdais, still trying to find a way through on Scott Dixon in the Eldorado. And Bourdais now then just going around these section of corners now then on the racetrack. As now through the left-hander, as you can see, Bourdais in the slipstream as Castroneves retaken 3rd yet from Pietro. Well, Pietro's still fighting as they go side by side into the bus stop chicane. Will Castroneves get the move done? And oh no, there's contact! There's contact between Helio Castroneves and Pietro Fittipaldi. And Fittipaldi has rejoined into the path of Wickens. So more contact at the bus stop chicane. And, well, Wickens is out of the race. And Fittipaldi's out of front wing. That's going to put Newgarden onto the podium. And chaos is enthralled here. As, well, those 2 incidents will have to be investigated. Some clumsy driving we're seeing here at Daytona. So that's 4 separate incidents we're going to have to see during this. We're going to have to see there as we'll try and get to Fittipaldi if we can. We've been able to just catch the last glimpses of him rejoining into the path of Robert Wickens. Robert Wickens out of the race, and we're down to where are we down to now? 18 runners in this race, and yeah, just bone idle driving there from Pietro. And well, that's again, he's under investigation for another incident he's caused. Clearly his lack of experience clearly getting the best of him at the moment, and he'll have to make a trip to the pits for a new front wing. And so that will be that then really for Pietro Fittipaldi, as Castroneves is waiting for a gap in the traffic to rejoin. And he's on the grass trying to get out, and he's now all the way down in 15th place. So both of those incidents, the one between Castroneves and Wickens and Fittipaldi, Fittipaldi and Castroneves, and Wickens and Fittipaldi under investigation. So that's that really. We're down to 18 runners now then in this race. Will Power to pass that area himself. As Alonso continues to lead the way. Fittipaldi in. Chavez still in 2nd place. Still quite a bit behind Alonso at this stage of the race. As through the left-hander he goes. As we now look at Sebastian Bourdais, who's up into 4th now. So unseen by the cameras, he's past Scott Dixon. So that's P4 for Sebastian Bourdais. As his next target now then will be Joseph Newgarden for 3rd place. So Bourdais taking advantage of everything that's happened in front of him and making his way up through the field at this stage. Meantime, Jones having to fend off from Chilton. Chilton down the inside into the right-hander. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. Chilton hanging back for the moment and stays in 11th place for the moment in this race. As Castroneves trying to make his way back up through the field. His first target being Simon Pagenaud in the Silicon Valley racing car, unable to find a way through into this right-hander, trying to pressure Pagenaud into any form of mistake he can. Alonso through the bus stop now, then he goes. So he just comes out of the turn and around the banking he will now go on the racetrack. And Alonso now then round the left-hander he goes. As he now just going around those section of corners now then, heading down towards the pit straight now then. Alonso's about to start lap 8 of 80 here at Daytona And we're looking at quite a long race, it seems, here at Daytona. And we're still a long way away from the scheduled pit stop stage. Alonso sets the fastest lap at 5:10. So Alonso's still flying out in front at this stage. Meantime, Andretti and Jones go side by side with each other as they battle it out for ninth. Jones has got away a bit from Max Chilton as they now go around this left-hander. Jones trying to find a way through, unable to do so that time. Could he possibly find a way through down into turn 1? Jones, we ride on board with. He's going to try and dive it down the inside, but Andretti shuts the door and holds on to ninth place in this race as they go out of turn 1 on the racetrack. And now in towards the hairpin. We will now go on the racetrack as Castaneras and Rossi try and make their way up through the field. Castaneras up to 14th and now trying to get hold of Rossi for 13th place if he can. In fact, I think Rossi might have passed both of them, in fact. So that's that for them, really. And, well, that's that. Fittipaldi, after his unscheduled pit stop, rejoins 17th in front of Will Power. So that's that for him, really. And here's Alonso, currently still leading the way as he looks for his first ever IFMC IndyCar victory, along with E-Powers as well, and continuing to fly out in front as he has a lock up into the corner. He's gone wide as I say that. Alonso has gone wide into the bus stop chicane. Now, will that cost him any time? It will a little bit, but luckily he still holds onto the lead, but it now puts Chavez in prime position to take the lead from the Spaniard as they now go side by side round the banking. Will Chavez get the lead off Fernando Alonso? A very rare error from the Spaniard as around the outside goes Gabby Chavez. Can he grab the lead from Fernando Alonso? And yes, he can. Chavez leads in Daytona, but can Alonso try and find a way back through on him? Alonso looking to the outside. Down the pit straight we go. And Alonso and Chavez side by side, starting another lap as they go down towards turn 1. Chavez holds on for the moment. Chavez holding on to the lead at this stage. Round turn 1 we go. Alonso still putting the pressure on Gabby Chavez as now into the hairpin we go. And Chavez and Alonso keeping single file for the moment. But I bet you Alonso will try and maybe think of a move up towards the next hairpin they're approaching in just a little bit. Alonso tucks up. He's going to look to the inside of Gabby Chavez. Can he retake the lead from the Colombian now? Then Alonso down the inside, and yes he can. Alonso retakes the lead here at the Daytona International Speedway for its road course. So back up to P1 goes the 3-time IFMC champion Fernando Alonso. Meantime, Newgarden and Bourdais starting to fight it out for third. Bourdais is caught up rapidly to the back of Joseph Newgarden as these two fight it out for the final podium place. The defending champion really getting his skates on now as they now make their way down towards the bus stop. Meantime, Chavez still tucked up behind Fernando Alonso. Out of the banking, Chavez on the inside of Fernando Alonso. Can he get the move done on the Spaniard as they will approach the bus stop chicane now then for what I think is the 9th time today? Will Chavez pull the move off into the chicane down the inside? Alonso has to give him the space. There's contact between them and they've both gone for a spin at the bus stop chicane. Bourdais takes third from Newgarden there. And I don't know if there was yellow flags involved when he overtook there, but Fernando and who was it? Chavez have gone for a spin. And well, whose fault is it? I don't really know. Did Bourdais pass Newgarden on the yellow flags? That's what I want to know, as they've both taken each other out and cost them a chance of race victory. Contact between Alonso and Chavez. Let's see, and we just caught onto it last minute, so I think it will be investigated, but I think the stewards will have to have a very good eye to see how that one happened. That's a 5th investigation. It's going to be a busy night for the stewards, that's for sure. But let's see if Bourdais actually passed Newgarden under yellow flags, and no, he actually passed him before the whole incident happened. So Bourdais is now leading here in Daytona. The EMR driver and defending champion Sebastian Bourdais leads at the Daytona International Speedway and might have a challenge from Joseph Newgarden as well. But we will wait and see. But Alonso and Chavez have both cost themselves a possible chance of winning this race here at Daytona. So much is kicking off here as the pair of them try and find a gap in the traffic. And, well, the stewards will need a squint eye on that one to see who was the culprit in that accident. And, well, that's pretty much that, really, as there goes Chavez going. He's off, as Alonso also now starting to rejoin, and they're down in 15th and 16th. And a chance for victory for both of these guys potentially gone down the toilet as a result. As meantime now, Bourdais leads the race with quite a comfortable gap in front of Joseph Newgarden. So Bourdais leading the way at this stage as Dixon is now in third, Hinchcliffe fourth, Fantarry fifth, Montoya up in sixth after starting last, Andretti seventh, Jones eighth, Chilton ninth, and Hildebrand rounding out the top 10. So a very, very crazy race, it must be said, here at Daytona. As well, as that really is, Bourdais now then just goes onto the oval section for the first time today. And Bourdais now then just going around the section of corners on the racetrack, around the bank. He's starting to pull a bit of a gap on Joseph Newgarden at the moment. Both of these guys yet to score points this season. They both retired last time out at Bar Motorsports Park in Alabama, both for mechanical problems. Well, I say that Newgarden was classified in 14th, so he did get points, but still yet to cross the line this season of the pair of them. Bourdais retired earlier on in the race at Barber, and now this is pretty much where his championship effectively starts, his defence of his title, I should point out, as Bourdais just makes his way around the bank now then. And that's pretty much that for him, really, as far as I'm concerned. Meantime, we've got a three-way scrap for 5th place going on between Fantarry, Andretti and Montoya, as now they go around the banking. Now then, and as you can see, as Andretti goes to the outside of Ryan Fantarry, can he get the move done on the e-power car? Side by side they go as they make their way around the outside, and Andretti pulls the move off, and that's P5 for Marco Andretti. Well, I say that Fantarry's still there, but he's got Montoya trying to go around the outside of both of them. That's an amazing pass from Juan Pablo Montoya. P5 for the Colombian. Up into 5th place goes Montoya. Fantarry trying to have a look again at Andretti. Wasn't able to make the move off. Andretti holds on to 6th for the moment as they make their way around the left-hander now then on the racetrack, as Fittipaldi and Alonso start to duke it out for 16th place. A lonely 16th place, it must be said, as Bourdais makes his way around the hairpin now then on the racetrack. Well, on lap 11 of 80 here at Daytona, so 70 laps remaining here at the Daytona International Speedway road course. We're still here to get to the first round of stops. I think some people will be pitting very soon. You've got the likes of Montoya, who's on 8.9 litres, and unseen by the cameras, Andretti, we passed him at the hairpin there, so Andretti back up to 5th, but Montoya trying to get back on him if he can, as Hinchcliffe and Dixon start to squabble it out for 3rd place. Hinchcliffe looking to get onto the podium if he can for Martini Energia. Meantime, Montoya round the outside of Andretti for P5 in this race. They go side by side. This banking up towards the bus stop. They will soon go. And as Montoya got the move perfected, this side by side into the chicane. Please keep it tidy, boys. We've seen incidents of people going side by side into the chicane. Into the chicane we go as Andretti and Montoya keep it clean there. Montoya backed out, and Andretti holds on to 5th place. Meantime, look how close Hinchcliffe is now then to the back of Scott Dixon. Hinchcliffe looking to the outside now then of Scott Dixon as they make the way round at the left-hander now then. Hinchcliffe in the slipstream with Dixon looking to the outside, the pair of them fighting it out for the final podium place. Around the outside goes James Hinchcliffe as Montoya and Andretti go side by side with each other as they fight for 5th, as Hinchcliffe has got 3rd. So up into 3rd place goes James Hinchcliffe in the Martini, as Andretti and Montoya again squabble it out for P5. Andretti holding off Montoya for the moment, and does so into turn 1. Andretti holding on to the place for the moment as they go around turn 1 on the racetrack. Meantime, Chilton up into 10th, trying to get out of JR Hildebrand. Looks like those two will fight it out for 9th in a little bit. And, well, that's that really as far as they're concerned. So 5 investigations so far in this race. Probably a busy night for the stewards, it must be said. As Fantarry now is on the back of Montoya. Montoya has now lost time to Andretti. Fantarry down the inside of Montoya. Can he get the move done on the Colombian down the inside? And can he get the move done? Yes, he can. Up into 6th place goes Ryan Fantarry in the e-power car, and Montoya having to slot back behind him as Fantarry now tries to chase down Andretti himself for 5th. But I say that Dixon starting to lose time to Hinchcliffe, and now coming under threat perhaps from Marco Andretti in the adrenaline car as they make their way round the banking now then on the racetrack. Montoya again not giving up on Ryan Fantarry for 6th place. Jones starting to close up on these guys as well. As meantime now then Newgarden continuing to lose time to Bourdais. Bourdais starting to pull a very big gap out of the front of the field now then, as now they just come out of that bus stop chicane now then as they make their way round the banking. And Newgarden now then still losing time, it must be said. Andretti right on the back of these guys. Montoya still stuck behind Fantarry. Jones closing in at every opportunity he has. Riding on board now then with Marco Andretti. He's in the slipstream of Dixon. He's going to look to the outside. Can Marco Andretti pull the move off? Round this banking now then. Looks like Dixon's going to cover him off out of the exit. But Andretti now then still has a gap on the outside to try and see if he can get the move done, I should say. Round the left-hander, across the line we go. Is Andretti going to pull the move off on Dixon into turn one? No, Dixon covers him off there then as Fantarry starting to stretch his advantage on Montoya. Jones now starting to reel in the Colombian at this stage, coming out of turn one. He goes on the racetrack. Meantime now then, Andretti, can he find a way back through on Scott Dixon? As now they make their way through this left-hander. Dixon goes defensive, feeling the pressure from Andretti at the moment, and doing a good job because Andretti is not thinking about diving it into this hairpin now then on the racetrack. Round the right-hander we go, and Andretti still trying to attack, and so is Montoya, in fact, despite the fact that Jones is starting to close in on these guys. Round this left-hander we go. Can Andretti find a way through on Scott Dixon now then? As we go around this left-hander up towards the banking, we will go on the racetrack. Power now sets the fastest lap, so Power holding on to the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 38.019, so Power flying at this stage now. Then round the banking we go. Andretti trying to get in the slipstream of Scott Dixon if he can, as he tries to go down the inside of the fellow Chevy-powered car. As now down the inside goes Marco Andretti. Can he get the move done as unseen by the cameras? Montoya is retaking 6th from Fantarry. So back up to 6th goes Ryan Fantarry. Up into 4th goes Andretti. He pulls the move off at the bus stop, and up into P4 goes Marco Andretti. A brilliant pass, and that's P4 for the adrenaline driver. Next target for him is 3rd place man James Hinchcliffe, if he's got the pace to do so. Meantime, Fantarry still in the slipstream of Juan Pablo Montoya. Round the banking we go. Montoya still fending him off at this stage. Round the banking we go. Fantarry in the slipstream. He looks to the outside of Montoya. Can he pull the move off? He's getting alongside the Colombian now then. Side by side go the pair of them as they'll make their way down towards turn one in a little bit. Side by side they go down the pit straight now then. Fantarry trying to hang in around the outside of the Colombian. Down towards turn one. They're still side by side around turn one. Fantarry able to out-drag Montoya into the corner, and up into 6th place again goes Ryan Fantarry in the E-Power car. And P6 again going to Ryan Fantarry, as now round the hairpin he goes, as Montoya still not giving up on him at this stage. Dixon starting to fall back now onto this scrap himself, and now around this left-hander we go. I think we're very close now to the first round of pit stops getting underway. We're on lap 14 of 80 here at Daytona, and we have specifically 67 laps remaining here at the road course of the Daytona International Speedway, as Bourdais makes his way around that banking now then on the racetrack before approaching the bus stop chicane for the 14th time today, as he's been gifted this lead as a result of Chavez and Alonso mucking it up a little bit earlier on in the race with their incident being investigated after the race. And now through the chicane we will go on the racetrack, as Montoya now then around the bank. Bourdais goes around that banking as Andretti starting to reel in on 3rd place man Hinchcliffe. Montoya still sticking with Fantarry at the moment, but still unable to find a way through on him at this stage. Ed Jones not really closing up as much as we would have anticipated at this stage now then, as he makes his way around that banking. As meantime, Montoya again in the slipstream of Fantarry, looking to the outside, coming out of the final corner now then, heading down the pit straight. Will Montoya try and find a way through on Fantarry again for what is P6 in this race? He's in the slipstream, he's going to look to the outside down this pit straight. He has a lot more drag than him, using the slipstream to his advantage side by side, and Montoya, just like Fantarry did on the previous lap, able to out-drag him into turn one, and back up to P6 goes Juan Pablo Montoya in the Red Rose Racing car, as now he goes into the hairpin on the racetrack. Montoya doing a good job, looking to try and get some points on the board for Red Rose Racing after what had been a tricky start to the season for the team formerly known as RSPCA Racing. And so that's that for them really at this stage. JR Hildebrand currently 10th, closing in on Max Chilton for 9th place at the moment. Alonso and Fittipaldi have made progress. In fact, the two Macamo cars are fighting it out for 15th. Fittipaldi able to have the airs on Chavez into that turn one there then. Alonso now then just going around the right-hander on the racetrack. And so far trying to make up the way through the field as his next target will be Graham Rahal in the Martini. And so that's that really meantime. Up to 5th place goes Montoya. He's passed Dixon, unseen by the cameras. So up to 5th place goes Juan Pablo Montoya. Dixon losing time, but Dixon trying to get back on him now then. Montoya trying to shove him into the chicane now then. It's going to be tight. Montoya had to back out. They've both gone straight on. Out the chicane. Oh God, please don't hit Hunter Ray, whatever you do. Oh, Hunter Ray is so lucky he didn't get collected there. And up into 5th place goes Hunter Ray. He says, thank you very much, you two. I'll resume that place. Same with Jones. He's up to 6th now. And, well, Dixon and Montoya down to 7th and 8th. And now they've got Chilton and Hildebrand all over the backside of him there. Then it was going to be tight, but luckily they've avoided a crash. And no investigation warranted there then as a result. Meantime, look how close Andretti is now then to the back of James Hinchcliffe as they fight it out for the final podium place. Heading down towards turn 1 on the racetrack. What a race we've had so far. Here at the Daytona International Speedway, down to turn 2 goes Andretti as he continues to pile the pressure on James Hinchcliffe in front. At the same time, Hinchcliffe is also closing in on Newgarden in front. Newgarden starting to lose time to these two as well. So we could have a three-way scrap for second if this goes on, with Bordet continuing to pull away at the front. As now through the right-hander they go. Meantime, look at this queue of cars now starting to fight it out for 7th. You've got Dixon, Montoya, Chilton and Hildebrand fighting it out for 7th. Chilton now on the inside of Montoya. Can Chilton get the move done on the Colombian down the inside? And yes, he can. Up into 8th place goes Max Chilton in the SIC. What a race that Chilton is having after a tricky start to the season for him. Chilton having a phenomenal race here at Daytona. As now we go into turn 1 on the racetrack, but Montoya still sticking with him. In fact, Chilton in the slipstream of Dixon as they come back onto the oval section now. Then Rossi up to 11th, and after the contact that happened to him during the race, and he's of course under investigation for the collision with who was it? He made a collision with. I can't 100% remember. It was a lap 1 collision he made, and well, he ended up going to the back of the field as a result. And can't quite remember what's going on, but in front, look at these lot now then, as Dixon's 7th, Chilton and Montoya, contact again being made at the chicane, as both Dixon and Montoya again choosing to take the escape road, again just about avoiding people, I think, or did Rossi get clipped? No, he didn't. He jammed on the brakes, both of them going straight on, and well, contact was made. That would probably be having to look into, but I wouldn't think much of it, as well, I think they've probably only got themselves really to blame on that instance, as again they've both taken the escape road, and again Dixon finding himself in front of Montoya coming out the escape road. That's 2 laps in a row they've gone through the escape road, and now they're down to 10th and 11th as a result, losing more places. As a result, Rossi up to 9th, JL Hildebrand up into 8th, Chilton up into 7th place. As a result, it's unseen by the cameras, as Andretti, while we were looking at that big scrap that was happening, Andretti has taken 3rd from Hinchcliffe. So up into 3rd place goes Marco Andretti, as he's now slowly chasing after Joseph Newgarden for 2nd place. Andretti is flying on the racetrack, as now he will approach the hairpin now then. And so going around the hairpin goes Andretti as he tries to chase down Newgarden, starting to pull a gap on James Hinchcliffe behind him at this stage. And that'll be that. As unseen by the cameras, Montoya has taken 10th from Dixon. So up to 10th place goes Juan Pablo Montoya, but his race, and along with Dixon's, probably already been wrecked as a result of taking the escape road twice. As Rahal coming up to the back of Pagenaud, and I think at the same time Alonso's slowly getting on Rahal, so we could have a very big scrap going on for 10th place, because those lot are also getting on to Montoya and Dixon respectively. At the moment, as Bordet continues to stretch his advantage out in front of the moment. We're near the pit stop stage, so I think in a couple of laps we'll be seeing people darting to the pits for their first scheduled stops of the afternoon. Round the chicane we go, and Andretti now then trying to get up close to the wall at the exit, as out goes Helio Castroneves. The EMR driver is out after a disappointing race from him. What has happened to Castroneves? And there he is. He's crashed out at turn 2. That looks like he's crashed out. And Helio Castroneves is out here at Daytona, and we're down to 17 runners. And was it just pure driver error? Yes, it was. He just went straight on, similar to an incident we saw in testing. I think with one of the Target Andy Graham racing cars. I think it was. I think it might have been Jones, in fact, that went off at that corner in pre-season testing. And, well, Helio Castroneves out of the race, and we're down to 17 runners. So the front 2 men who started this race having a disastrous of a race. Bordet, the only EMR left now remaining in the race, just like Castaneda's was last time out at Barber. So, heading down the straight, then we go. As meantime, what's the gap between Andretti and Newgarden at the moment? As Bourdais on lap 18 of 80, and as you can see just on the bottom right, you just saw there, Andretti is pitting at the end of this lap. So Andretti will be pitting, and the gap is 1.8 seconds. He'll be hoping to try and leapfrog Newgarden in the pits if he can. He's got a 1.4 second advantage as well at James Hinchcliffe for added reference. So now just going out of the corner, and he's continuing to increase that gap at this stage. Meantime, Jones starting to reel in Hunter Ray for 5th place. So these two look to duke it out for P5 at the moment, as he's just come out of turn 2 on the racetrack. Chilton now into the pit, so I think that's a scheduled stop, and I think it was. I think he was running quite light as well, so Chilton in for a scheduled stop. He will be expected to pit again at around about, I'd say, lap 35, so he looks like he's going to be fueling quite heavy unless he's on a free stop. Montoya into the pits as well. He's made his scheduled stop, both taking around about the same amount of fuel coming out of the pits. Chilton rejoins 16th behind World Power. Montoya is going to rejoin in last, of course, because there's only 17 runners now left in this race. So that's that for him, really. And as mentioned, we will be seeing Andretti coming to the pits this time by as he makes his way around that chicane, the bus stop chicane that is. And we'll be seeing him dart into the pits this time by. So coming out of the bus stop there then goes Marco Andretti as he tries to leapfrog Joseph Newgarden in the pits. So now just going around this banking now then, we'll be seeing him peel to the left in just a little bit. And let's see when he peels to the left. He does now. Into the pits then comes Marco Andretti from 3rd place in this race after only qualifying 15th. Andretti's done a good job taking advantage of all the carnage that's happened in front of him as the adrenaline mechanics wait for him so that he can be served, as he will put on a fresh set of tyres and fuel. How much fuel is going into the car? He's got 19.9 litres, so I know a stop expected for Marco Andretti is predicted, but is this a 2 or 3 stop? I'm not 100% sure, but we'll wait and see. It is a 10.7 second stop for Andretti, as into the pits comes championship leader Alexander Rossi. So Rossi into the pits himself, and he's making his scheduled stop now then, as he puts on a fresh set of tyres and fuel himself. And where has Andretti come out? He rejoins 10th, just in front of Fernando Alonso, who's right behind him at the moment. Rossi, where's he going to come out? I think he's going to come out in around about either 15th or 16th, I would have thought, as he flicks off the pit limiter and he rejoins in 16th, just behind Max Chilton. So that's where he rejoins. And Alonso down the inside of Andretti, who's just made a pit stop. That will hold up Andretti of any chance of leapfrogging Newgarden. And Alonso up into 10th place. Doesn't care if Andretti is in a race for the podium. He's up to 10th and trying to make some progress after what happened between him and Chavez a little bit earlier on in the race, as now he's just come out of the road section of the course and now onto the oval. And as you can see now, in fact, Andretti trying to get back at Fernando Alonso as they make their way around the banking now. Then can Andretti get the move done as they go side by side down towards the bus stop chicane now? Then looks like Andretti's got the edge down this straight, but Alonso still sticking with him. The race leader, Sebastian Bourdais, is into the pits for his scheduled stop, giving Newgarden the lead temporarily as Andretti retakes the place, and up into 10th he will go. As we mentioned, Bourdais is into the pits and he's fueling to the end of the race, so it's a one-stop strategy for Sebastian Bourdais. A very, very, very interesting strategy for the defending champion. I wonder if this one's going to pay off or what, but we'll wait and see. He's fueling to the end of the race, as now he will come out of his box. Where is Bourdais going to rejoin the EMR driver coming trundling down pit lane? And where is Bourdais going to emerge, as he will soon flick off his pit limiter? And Sebastian Bourdais is going to rejoin in 12th place, in fact, behind Gabby Chavez and in front of Pietro Fittipaldi. So he's come out in a Macamo sandwich. And in fact, where's Andretti? In fact, well, Andretti has obviously gone in front of him because Bourdais has taken a lot of fuel. So if Andretti is able to leapfrog Newgarden into the pits, then we could see Andretti lead this race, trying to see if he can make either the 2 or 3 stop work. I would think it's a 2 stop. As meantime, the heavy fuel Bourdais is now coming under threat from Pietro Fittipaldi, and Fittipaldi gets through easily on him. Up into 12th place goes Pietro, as unseen by the cameras, Alonso retook 9th from Marco Andretti. And Andretti trying to get the place back. This is not exactly what he needs if he wants to leapfrog Newgarden in the pits. And I wonder if Newgarden is actually on a one-stop himself. And in fact, he's not pitting this lap. So I think he could be on for a one-stop, just like Sebastian Bourdais is. But we'll wait and see on that. There's Hinchcliffe also staying out as well. So the top two willing to stay out. Hinchcliffe trying to catch back onto the prowl of Newgarden if he can. So these two could duke it out themselves as they make their way through turn 1 on the racetrack now. Then Hinchcliffe pushing very hard through that first corner there, then trying to get hold of Newgarden now. Then through turn 2 goes the Martini as he uses the curb on the outside there. Then as meantime Jones is still stuck behind Fantarry. He's not really past him. Well, they've not really battled as much as I would have anticipated. There's still quite a bit of a gap between him at the moment. Jones not close enough to possibly pull a pass on the Honda powered e-power at this stage. As now we go into turn number 4 on the racetrack. Jones still trying to put... he's had a little bit of understeer there coming on the outside there. So Jones probably pushing a bit too hard to try and catch up to Fantarry, and he's gone a little bit deep and caught the grass a little bit, and he's lost time. Will Power into the pits for a scheduled stop, and that will be his second stop of the afternoon, and it looking like a 3-stop strategy for Power. So that's that really as far as they're concerned. In fact, yeah, Power pitted earlier to repair a new front wing. And where is Power going to be joining after this pit stop? And it's obviously last place because through goes Montoya, so a lot of work to do for Power. And he's luckily not going to be a lap down, but he's probably going to be close very soon if he's not careful. As now Newgarden comes out of that left-hander and staying out for another lap. Is Hinchcliffe also following suit? Yes, he's on around about a similar fuel load, but probably a little bit more heavier than what Newgarden is carrying in the back of his tank. Heading down towards turn 1 on the racetrack as the sparks continue to fly at the back of the target Andy Graham racing car. Through turn 1 he goes, as does James Hinchcliffe at this stage. And meantime now then, as Andretti looks like he's been overtaken again by Fernando Alonso, and in fact Chavez has caught up to the back of them and passed him as well. So I don't know if Andretti might have made a mistake somewhere trying to let Alonso go, but down to 11th goes Andretti, and this is not what he needs if he wants to leapfrog Newgarden in this race to take the lead. As now Andretti getting back on the prow of Chavez, and he gets the move done for P10 again, but that could have been costly for Marco Andretti, that's for sure. Bourdais on a heavy fuel down in 13th, being caught up a bit now by Max Chilton. Bourdais trying a very interesting strategy of a one-stop, it must be said. Whether this will work or backfire on him, we'll have to wait and see, as Chilton closes up now on him and could pressure the Frenchman at this stage of the race. Coming out of turn 1 he goes. So that's that for him really now then. As meantime we look at Graham Rahal on the back of Simon Pagenaud, so these two are scrapping it out for 7th place as they just go onto the oval part of the track. As we're on we'll soon be starting lap 23 of 80 in a little bit, so we will have specifically in fact, trying to figure the top of my head, we will have specifically 58 laps remaining here at the Daytona International Speedway. So that'll be that then really. So Newgarden again choosing to stay out. Let's have a look at the bottom left right of his screen. No pit stop for him and no pit stop for Hinchcliffe. So these two are staying out for quite a while. It must be said. Through turn 1 they go, and the gap between Hinchcliffe and Newgarden is 1.5 seconds. So that's how it looked that time around. Hinchcliffe going around turn 2 on the racetrack, just using a tad bit of curb on the outside as he tries to put Newgarden under some form of pressure in this race. Into the right hander we will go, and Hinchcliffe now then just swooping around that right hander, pushing hard to pressure Newgarden into any form of mistake he can. So around the left hander we go as he just comes off the turn going around the banking, and so going around the banking we will go on the racetrack now then. Hinchcliffe still trying to pressure Newgarden into any form of mistake he can as he comes out of the banking now then. And we're 10 minutes away from the 5:30 mark, so it will be interesting to see what time this race will finish, of course, because we was expecting it to be a long race, being 80 laps, and so far it's looking to be a very long race, it must be said, as now Fantarry will come up now then towards the bus stop chicane. Sparks coming off the back of his car as Jones not really closing up to him after his little mistake he made a couple of laps ago. And Newgarden probably in around a couple of laps. The race leader we should see pit, as mentioned, in about a couple of laps time. And what's Andretti doing? Well, Andretti is down in 11th and losing time to Chavez, who retook the place off him, and Alonso pulling away in 9th, and he'll be starting to pit a little bit soon. So Alonso making some good progress after that mistake with, speaking of which, Gabby Chavez, and their incident is of course under investigation as well, just for anybody wondering. As now they just go around the banking now then, as meantime these two still not scheduled to make a pit stop, but Hinchcliffe getting closer to the back of Newgarden now then. Through the right-hander we go. Hinchcliffe trying to put Newgarden under any form of pressure he can to try and take the lead here at Daytona and try and get his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. Through the left-hander he goes. And so through the left-hander we will soon go then on the racetrack. And Hinchcliffe now then still putting Newgarden under pressure now then, it must be said, as now they just come out of that turn heading in towards the next chicane on the racetrack. And so into the bus stop now then through the left, and then the right. We'll have a look and see in a little bit what the gap is like between these two now then, as they will soon come around the banking. And so around the banking we go, as now we will approach the pit straight. Let's see then, what is the gap between Hinchcliffe and Newgarden this time by? Newgarden's about to start lap 25 of 80 here at Daytona, so we have specifically 56 laps remaining here in this race as they go around the banking. What's the gap between them as they go down towards turn 1 on the racetrack? I'll have a look and see if Newgarden's pitting this lap. I doubt it, but we'll see. It's under a second, so 0.9 seconds the gap is. Hinchcliffe lapping quicker at this stage, and no, Newgarden staying out. He's not pitting this lap as he just goes around turn 2. So maybe next lap we could see Newgarden making his maybe his one and only stop, with Hinchcliffe either doing 1 or 2 more laps after he's pitted. Into turn number 4 we go, as the Target Underground racing car feeling the pressure from James Hinchcliffe at the moment, and the car that he used to drive for, let's not forget, Newgarden came from Martini Energia but moved to Target Underground racing this season, as a result of him at the time being owned by Mars Grand Prix, who is the team that owns Target Underground racing. But he's now an Etihad driver, so effectively this is a loan deal for Newgarden. You just saw there, Alonso sets the fastest lap, so Alonso again resuming the bonus point he lost from I'm trying to think who it was he lost it from earlier, but he's got the bonus point back, so Alonso holding on to that point at this stage of the race as they approach the bus stop chicane now. Then Hinchcliffe putting Newgarden under immense pressure at this stage, as unseen by the cameras. Rahal is up to 7th, he's past Pagenaud, so P7 goes to Rahal as he's now starting to close up on Scott Dixon for 6th place at the moment. As meantime now then, Bourdais is down in 16th, he's losing places hand over fist. That's the disadvantage he has of having a heavy fuel load, and this might backfire on Bourdais as a result, but we will wait and see on that and see if this strategy could pay off, but I doubt it at this stage. He's nearly down in last because Power, who's the last car in this race, in 17th with 5 retirements, is starting to close him in. What's the gap now between Hinchcliffe and Newgarden? It's down to 0.8 seconds, so only 10th. Hinchcliffe took out of Newgarden, and Newgarden is actually pitting at the end of this lap. So as predicted, Joseph Newgarden is pitting at the end of this lap. So Hinchcliffe will lead temporarily because he's not pitting at the end of this lap. Newgarden is. It'll be interesting to see what his strategy is and where he'll call out in relative of Marco Andretti and Sebastian Bourdais. So through turn 4 he goes. Hinchcliffe still putting him under pressure, but I don't think Hinchcliffe is close enough to possibly make a pass by the end of this lap before Newgarden makes a pit stop. Fernando Alonso is into the pits for his scheduled stop, so he's making some good progress after the contact with Chavez. He's in for his scheduled stop. Also in, as I think that's coincidentally Gabby Chavez is into the pits. I could be wrong. It looks like a Macamo car that's behind him in the pit lane, and Alonso is also on a 1-stop, so it looks like the majority of the field is doing a 1-stop, with the odd few doing a 2-stop, just like Wickens, who else? Chilton, and I think as well we saw Montoya doing the 2-stop as well, but we'll wait and see. It's a 22.5 second stop for Alonso, and it is Chavez who was into the pits. Where is Alonso going to rejoin? Newgarden should be coming into the pits in a little bit, as Montoya goes through, and in fact Bourdais has lost out to Alonso and Chavez. In fact, just Alonso, because both Power and Bourdais have got ahead of Chavez. Chavez rejoins in last, but Alonso 14th, but Bourdais trying to get on the prowl of him if he can, as Power tries to find a way through. An IndyCar champion versus an IFMC champion fighting it out for 14th place. Should be quite interesting. There's Newgarden into the pits, giving the lead temporarily to James Hinchcliffe. Where is Newgarden going to rejoin then for his, yes, one and only stop? Where's he going to come out in relative of Alonso, Bourdais, and even Andretti as well? Newgarden still behind Andretti as a result. Andretti is in front because of his 2 stop. But where is Newgarden going to come out in relative for Sebastian Bourdais? That's what we want to find out. Bourdais was leading the race before this pit stop, as now he comes out of his pit lane now then. Where is Bourdais on the track, and where's Alonso, who's leapfrogged him as well? As in fact Bourdais has been passed by Will Power, so up into 15th goes Will Power, and Will Power having a go at Alonso for 14th place. Down the inside he goes. Can he get the move? Sorry about that, as Alonso's gone for a spin at the chicane. Alonso is spun, going around the bus stop as he was battling with Will Power there. As now down the inside goes Will Power, one time to cut off the microphone there, as Power went down the inside of him. Was there contact? And no, well yes there was in fact, but Alonso just ran into the back of Power and pretty much caused his own error. Bourdais had to try and avoid him, but that's another spin for Alonso, and possibly a chance of victory gone down the toilet again for Alonso. And, well, luckily he's only lost a couple of places, but, well, he's lost quite a lot of time, it must be said. And that is in fact, the temporary race leader, James Hinchcliffe, being held up. Alonso has been lapped by Hinchcliffe, who I think will be pitting next lap anyway. So Alonso should get that lap back once Hinchcliffe makes his pit stop, and that costs him time in relative to Joseph Newgarden and Sebastian Bourdais as well. Bourdais still out in front of Newgarden, I think it was. I think I could have been wrong on that, and I think I was wrong. In fact, no, Newgarden's come out in 10th. He's way ahead of Bourdais, so Newgarden could be leading the race. As a result, Bourdais way far back from Newgarden, so Newgarden could be leading the race as a result, as he just comes around the banking now then up towards the bus stop chicane. He goes. Is Hinchcliffe pitting on the next lap? Let's have a look. And yes, he is. Hinchcliffe is pitting at the end of this lap on lap 27 of 80 here at Daytona, as he now makes his way around the left-hander on the racetrack. Round the right-hander goes James Hinchcliffe, and so that's that really as far as they are concerned. As Hinchcliffe going through the left-hander, and now just going out of the corner, he will go on the racetrack, and that's pretty much that then really as far as he's concerned. Hinchcliffe going around the bank, and so that's pretty much that then for him. So Hinchcliffe will come up towards the bus stop chicane on the racetrack, as he will be coming into the pits this time by, as he just goes around each section of the corners on the racetrack. Hinchcliffe will be peeling into the pits in a little bit. We're 1 minute away from the 5:30 mark now then here at Daytona. Around the banking goes James Hinchcliffe, as now he's just going to go around the banking himself, heading down the pit straight, and he will peel to the left in a little bit, which he does. Into the pits then comes James Hinchcliffe from the lead of the race, as he will put on a fresh set of tyres and fuel, which should get him to the end of the race. But where's he going to come out in relative to Joseph Newgarden? The Martini mechanics preparing for his stop. This is going to be a crucial stop. Can Hinchcliffe get out in front of Newgarden? And where is Andretti at the moment? That's what I want to know, as Hildebrand comes in for Silicon Valley Racing. So he's in. Hunter Ray takes the lead temporarily ahead of Jones. These two still yet to make a stop, as Dixon will stay out himself. Rahal choosing to stay out, but I bet he'll be pitting in a little bit. Andretti's just coming around the banking. Hinchcliffe finishes his pit stop. Where is Newgarden on the racetrack? I think Hinchcliffe might do enough, as Dixon now sets the fastest lap, so now he holds on to the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. Where is Hinchcliffe going to come out, as he will flick off the pit limiter, as through goes Andretti. So Andretti up to 7th. He's still yet to make a stop, his second stop, but Hinchcliffe has got out in front of Newgarden, and once I think the guys in front of him pit, he will take the lead here at Daytona. I think that just all depends really on how the two stopping Andretti will go, but I think judging from Hinchcliffe's pace, I think Andretti will have to go some if he wants to win this race here at Daytona, as Fittipaldi and Andretti fight it out for 6th place here. Fittipaldi pitting at the end of this lap, and the top two are not pitting, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter-Reay is going to be pitting on the next lap now. It'll be very interesting to see where he comes out as well, as he's coming up to lap his own teammate Fernando Alonso. Alonso has already made a stop, so Alonso shouldn't worry too much about Hunter-Reay at this stage, but Bourdais has probably cost himself a good chance of a victory, probably pitting a bit too early for that one and only stop, and it's definitely cost him in the long run, as Alonso lets his teammate go at this stage, realises he's on a different strategy. Hunter-Reay temporarily leading, but he's pitting at the end of this lap. Is Jones as well? Let's have a look. No, Jones is going to stay out to take the lead temporarily, as so will Dixon probably in a little bit, as Rahal is coming into the pits this lap. So into the pits comes Graham Rahal. Had to jam on the brakes. He just missed the wall. Just about there. Rahal nearly smacking the wall there, just like he did in pre-season testing, but managed to get the car stopped in time, as Silicon Valley, I think, are getting ready for Simon Pagenaud, who's coming into the pits. I think Pagenaud is also in. Where is Rahal going to come out after this stop? He's also on a one and only stop in this race. Where is Rahal going to rejoin, as we've just passed the 5:30 mark, and we're on lap 30 of 80 here at Daytona. So we have specifically 51 laps remaining here at Daytona, as it's a 21.7 second stop for Graham Rahal. Pagenaud finishes his pit stop, as out goes Pietro Fittipaldi. What has happened to Fittipaldi in this race? And whereabouts is he on the racetrack? Something has happened to Fittipaldi, and I think we might have missed him actually. I could be wrong, but I think we might have just missed him. So we'll try and find him if we can. And whereabouts is he on the track? And I think we've possibly missed Fittipaldi. As a result, he was in front of Andretti, so we'll try and see if we can try and catch him with Marco Andretti. And no, we just missed him. So whatever's happened, Fittipaldi is out of the race, and we're down to 16 runners here at Daytona. Rahal finishing off his pit stop, and as is Simon Pagenaud. Where are they going to rejoin after their pit stop? That is going to be the question. As they rejoin out of their box, then where are they going to come out? As they will soon flick off the pit limiter now then on the racetrack, and Rahal is going to come out in 10th place behind JR Hildebrand, in front of Montoya as well. Well, Pagenaud doesn't, but Rahal does. And Newgarden up into 6th place, but Hinchcliffe is in front, and looks like he will be leading the race once the guys in front of him make their pit stop. Meantime, here's Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's getting closed up a bit by Ed Jones, so it could be a battle in the pits in terms of leapfrogs between E-Power and Target and Graham Racing. Jones will stay out to lead the race temporarily, but Hunter-Reay is going to peel to the left, which he does. Into the pits comes Ryan Hunter-Reay from the temporary lead of the race. Let's see how quick the stop is going to be then for the E-Power driver, as the E-Power mechanics get set for him to come into his box. And it should be very interesting to see where he's going to rejoin after this pit stop. I shouldn't be the lead, I don't think, but it could be a very high place in this race, but we'll wait and see. A quick wipe of the visor there then for Ryan Hunter-Reay. A fresh set of tyres and fuel go into his car. And where is he going to come out then? And how long is this pit stop going to last? And it is let's have a look. It is a 21.2 second stop for Hunter-Reay. Here's Hinchcliffe. He should get by him pretty easily, so Hinchcliffe will go through. But what about Newgarden? In fact, this could be interesting. Could Hunter-Reay maybe slide himself into 2nd place? And I say that, he's side by side with Hinchcliffe, but Hinchcliffe has the lead, and Hunter-Reay has even leapfrogged Newgarden. So Hunter-Reay could be up to a provisional 2nd place, or maybe 3rd. It all depends where Ed Jones rejoins after the pit stop, because he and Jones were fighting it out before Hunter-Reay made his pit stop. I think Jones is pitting on the end of this lap. He is, so Ed Jones will be coming into the pits this time by, as he makes his way into the bus stop chicane. Round the chicane he goes then on the racetrack, as he will soon come off the turn now then, going around the banking. And where is, as Ed Jones will be coming into the pit this time by, and he'll soon pull off into the pit and into his pit box. And well, That's that. He'll soon pull off to the light as out goes Newgarden. Joseph Newgarden, the man who was in a provisional 4th, is out of the race, and there it is. He's gone deep after being passed by Alexander Rossi, and Newgarden carries a bit too much speed, and he bins it into the wall. Joseph Newgarden, for the 2nd race in a row, ends his race on the grass. Out of the race goes Joseph Newgarden, and we're down to 15 runners, and as you can see, Rossi pulls the move off into the hairpin, and Newgarden just carries too much speed, smacks it into the wall, and game over for the Target Andy Graham Racing of Joseph Newgarden. Ed Jones, again, the only Target Andy Graham left in this race, and could be fighting for another podium here at Daytona. But we'll wait and see. As into the pitch, speaking of which, comes Ed Jones, and he just about misses the wall, just like Rahal did a little earlier on in this race. So just about able to get the car stopped in time. As Jones now then goes into his box. Let's see how quick the stop is going to be then for Ed Jones in this race, as he puts on a fresh set of tyres and fuel. A quick wipe of the visor there then for Jones. Where is he going to emerge after this pit stop? Dixon takes the lead temporarily, but he's pitching at the end of this lap. And where is Andretti? Andretti's going to go through, but he's yet to make a second stop because he's on a 2-stop strategy. Jones is rejoining. Hinchcliffe is still going to be out in front of him. Hunter Ray, I think, well, in fact, it's going to be close. In fact, could actually Jones get the jump on Hinchcliffe? This is going to be very close. I think Jones could maybe lead this race. He flicks off the pit limiter, and Hinchcliffe has only just approached turn 1 now, and Jones has leapfrogged Hinchcliffe. So he will be in the lead of the race once Andretti and Dixon make their pit stop. And Jones will lead. Well, I say that because down the inside goes Hinchcliffe into turn 2, and he gets the lead back. Hinchcliffe takes third from Ed Jones, and he will be once again in the lead of the race once the top 2 make their first or second pit stops of this race. So Hinchcliffe back in the lead, but Jones not giving up. Hinchcliffe going defensive into turn 4 there, feeling the pressure from Ed Jones, it must be said. So it will be P3 for Hunter Ray, who's being attacked by Rossi, who's still yet to make a pit stop. So Rossi trying to make his strategy work out. Chilton on a 2-stop, still yet to make a stop himself. Same with Montoya. And so obviously there's 3 guys out there on a 2-stop, as Jones trying to look around the outside of Hinchcliffe. Around the banking he goes. Can Jones get the move done on James Hinchcliffe? Around the banking he goes as they go down this back straight before approaching the bus stop chicane on the racetrack. Jones looks to have the edge going down towards this chicane. Can Jones pull the move off? As Rossi has passed Hunter Ray. So up to 5th place goes Rossi. Side by side they go. But Hinchcliffe just has the edge. Just cuts him off into the second part of the bus stop. And back into 3rd place goes Hinchcliffe. Into the pits comes Scott Dixon for El Dorado. And let's see how quick the stop is going to be then for him, as he'll soon pull out of his pit box now then on the racetrack. And where is Dixon going to rejoin? And he is going to rejoin well, through goes Andretti to lead the race, but he's on a 2-stop, and it looks like he'll lose out on the lead. It's going to be either one of these two that's going to take the lead, because they pass Dixon in pit lane, and through they go. Where is Dixon going to emerge after his pit stop? And through goes Hunter Ray. He's going to rejoin in 7th place, just behind the 2-stopping Chilton. So I think he will be around about 4th once everybody makes a pit stop. Then again, it could be 5th. It all depends where Andretti finishes comes out after his second scheduled stop of this race. I know he said Grand Prix there. It's not a Grand Prix. As meantime, Jones is back in front of Hinchcliffe. So Jones will take the lead once everybody makes a stop. Jones starting to stretch his advantage now ahead of Hinchcliffe. Jones will lead the race as he looks to try and get his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. As now he just goes around the left-hander as he will now approach the oval section of this track. Coming off the road course section. And Jones now then looking in prime position to lead the race once everyone makes a stop. Now Rossi going around the outside of the 1-stopping Hinchcliffe. The 2-stopping Rossi goes up into 3rd. I think he's already made the stop as well, Rossi has. So I think he's on a 2-stop. Rossi now then coming up towards the chicane and starting to reel in on Ed Jones again for 2nd place. And well, that's that really. Through the chicane we go. Rossi putting the pressure on the 1-stopping Jones. And, well, could try and grab 2nd from him. The championship leader looking very racy, it must be said. Andretti starts another lap, but around a couple laps' time, so around about lap 36, we should have set Marco Andretti to make his 2nd and final stop of the afternoon, and then settle in for the remainder of the race and see if he could try and close the gaps in front, because I don't think he'll be leading by the time his 2nd pit stop is made. I think he'll be handing that duty to Ed Jones. As meantime, it looks like Andretti and Rossi will probably be pitting at the same time. As Rossi, unseen by the cameras, got Jones, but Jones looks to have got him back and retakes second as a result. So going into turn 1 we go. Jones in second place yet again, but Rossi not giving up on him. This could really help Hinchcliffe try and get back at Jones with him fighting the 2-stopping Rossi. Going out of turn 2 we go. And in fact, Chilton's also gaining on the 1-stoppers himself in 5th. As now through the left-hander we go. Hunter Ray has lost a place to Chilton. So Chilton also gaining a place from Ryan Hunter Ray at this time. As Jones still fending off from Rossi. Rossi looking to the inside into this left-hander. That was a bit of a tight squeeze, but Jones fends him off and holds on to second place in this race now then. As he goes around these section of corners on the racetrack now then. And I've got food as well, guys, so there may be chances that I might have to pop in and out during commentary, but we'll wait and see how that one fares. As let's put that there. As you can see, Rossi has retaken second place from Ed Jones, and now starting to pull a gap, but he's still yet to make his second stop in the race. The guys behind him look in prime position to be leading this race, and well, what can you say about that then, really? No complaints, and that's that then, really. So if you can hear me eating, guys, so unprofessional. But Max Chilton has got up to 4th. He's got ahead of James Hinchcliffe. And now reeling in on the other one-stopper. Ed Jones now for 3rd place. But pretty soon the 2-stoppers should be making a pit stop in a little bit. Marco Andretti is coming into the pits at the end of this lap for his second and final stop. Chilton's in for his second stop. So Chilton, as off goes Jones. Jones has spun it at turn 1, giving the lead back to Hinchcliffe. Once Andretti makes his stop, Jones has made a mistake into turn 1. Partly the pressure getting to the Emiratti's driver. Jones has gone for a spin down at turn 1. And Jones has spun off, and that is, well, probably his chance at victory down the toilet as a result. So Jones is done as a result. And so there we have it there then. Jones trying to get back on the track if he can. And he does so, but he's now behind Juan Pablo Montoya, who's fighting with Dixon for 5th place. Chilton, he made his pit stop. Where's he come out in? Whereabouts is he on the track? There he is. He's just coming out of his pit box. And where's he going to rejoin? He's going to rejoin in 12th place, just in front of, well, in front of Gabby Chavez. So that's where he's going to come out. Meantime, we look at Marco Andretti, and I think Rossi's pitting at the end of this lap as well. He is. So the top 2, the temporary top 2, are pitting at the end of this lap for their scheduled stops. I think once the pit stops is done, I'm going to mute the microphone so I can continue eating and then rejoin. Once all of this is done, but Marco Andretti into the pits for his scheduled stop of the afternoon, and his second and final stop. And Rossi will be joining him in a little bit. Whereabouts is Hinchcliffe on the track? Who will be the race leader once these guys finish their pit stop? And so that's that then, really, as far as they are concerned. And where is Andretti going to come out then after this pit stop? As Rossi is now into the pits. It's a very long stop for these guys. Hinchcliffe now taking the lead of the race, followed by Ryan Hunter Ray. And then Montoya now into the pits for his scheduled stop. Dixon will be up into 3rd place. So good result for him. Andretti is going to come out in 4th place. So Andretti still has a crack at winning this race. With how many laps is that now left? Well, we're still around about 45 laps remaining. It's still all to play for here at the Daytona International Speedway. Where's Rossi and Montoya going to come out after their second stop? As he go trundling down pit lane, he's going to rejoin. As he comes out of his box, he rejoins in 10th place. Whereabouts is Montoya going to rejoin? I think he's going to come out behind Chilton, but we'll wait and see on that, as he will flick off the pit limiter in a little bit. There goes Chilton, and he rejoins in 12th in front of Fernando Alonso. So that's that for them, really. Right, I'm going to let's see who we can put it on. See if there's any battles going on the track. Well, the only one is Alonso versus Chavez, but that's down the field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it onto Marco Andretti. I'm going to mute the mic and I'll come back once I've finished my food. So I do apologise for this, guys. A bit of inconvenience, but I'll be back once I finish. I'll still be flicking through as well, so I'll still be keeping an eye on the race. We are on lap 47 of 80 here at Daytona. I'm back now. Let's just recap the leaderboard then before we keep you up to date of what's happened while I wasn't commentating. We have James Hinchcliffe leading the race, Ryan Hunter-Reay second, closely followed by Scott Dixon in third, Marco Andretti fourth, Ed Jones fifth, JR Hildebrand sixth, Graham Rahal seventh, Simon Pagenaud in eighth, Alexander Rossi ninth, Max Chilton 10th, Juan Pablo Montoya in 11th, followed by Will Power 12th, Fernando Alonso 13th, and Gabby Chavez in 14th. Whilst I was having my food, of course, Sebastian Bourdais retired from the race, crashing out at turn 2, which I think is around about the same place where his teammate crashed out. Excuse me. Crashed out earlier today. And I think that means that both EMR drivers are out of the race, so no points for the defending champions. As a result, Hinchcliffe continuing to build the lead in front of Ryan Hunter-Reay at this stage, but Hunter-Reay has got Dixon starting to challenge all over the back of him now then, as these two look to duke it out for second place in the race as they go out of turn 2 now then, for what I think is the 48th time today. Dixon starting to reel in some pressure now, I think, to Ryan Hunter-Reay. And sorry if you can excuse me, still some food stuck in my throat. Anyway, as they now come up towards turn number 5 in this corner now then, as you can see, Dixon will be having a look in the seat in a little bit what the gap is like between Hunter-Reay and Dixon after this lap, of course, as they now just go around the oval bit of the track. And we have well, Hinchcliffe will soon be starting lap 49 of 80 here at Daytona. So specifically, he will have 42 laps remaining in the race. We've already passed the halfway point of the race. We passed that 8 laps ago, as we now go around the bus stop chicane now then on the racetrack. Dixon still trying to see if he can try and get up to the back of Ryan Hunter-Reay for second place. It's the Honda powered e-power versus the Chevy powered Eldorado. Eldorado struggled last time out in Barber, but it seems that they've got the pace back up this weekend. But let's see then what the gap is going to be between Dixon and Hunter-Reay as they just come down towards the pit straight now. Then the gap between the pair of them as they come across the line is now, let's have a look as they go down towards turn 1 on the racetrack now then, through turn 1, and the gap being, coming out of the corner now then, the gap is 1.2 seconds. That's how it looks. Got a 4.8 second lead to Marco Andretti. And that's pretty much that then, really, as far as they're concerned. Meantime, Alonso starting to put pressure on the other Eldorado. Will Power, of course, he's now disposed of Gabby Chavez after a bit of a battle for a few laps with the guy he made contact with a little bit earlier on in the race. That incident, of course, being under investigation, but now he's starting to put the pressure on the other Eldorado of Will Power. So whilst one E-Power's trying to fend off on an Eldorado, the other E-Power's attacking an Eldorado. So coming off the banking, then we go. And we'll have a look and see what the gap is like between Alonso and Power as they come across the line now then in towards turn 1. We will go on the racetrack and the gap between them is now, let's have a look, through turn 1. And the gap being, let's have a look, 1.7 seconds. So that's how that looks at this stage. Chavez continuing to fall back from these guys at the moment as we look back at this battle for second between Hunter-Reay and Dixon. And I don't know if Dixon has just got himself a tad bit closer there to Hunter-Reay on that lap as they just go around the final banking before approaching the start-finish line. And so going out the corner now then, heading down the straight. Let's see what the gap is like between the pair of them this time by, as we now have trying to think off the top of my head now, 31 laps remaining, I should say. I think it's 31 laps. Yes, 31 laps remaining in this race. I did say 44 laps to go, a little, 41 laps a little, 42 laps a little earlier on. I do apologise, it was 32 laps to go. But we didn't quite catch the gap there because I was trying to figure that out. I do apologise for that. As now into turn number 4, as Dixon tries to get himself up into second place at the moment, and everybody else just seems to separate themselves out just a little bit. We'll have a look and see what the gap is like between Alonso and Power. It looks like Power might have extended the gap a little bit between himself and Fernando Alonso, but we'll just wait and see once they cross the line, of course. So they will now come across the line, and the gap between them, let's have a look. As they go down towards turn 1 is now, through turn 1 we go, and the gap being, just coming out of the first corner, 2.3 seconds. So that's how that looks at this stage, as Chavez is now 5 seconds back from Fernando Alonso. So power is definitely starting to up the taps a little bit between himself and Fernando Alonso. Meantime, the other Eldorado, Scott Dixon, we'll have a look and see this time around what the gap is currently like. Is now through towards the left-hander now on the track, and down towards the corner, down to the straight we go. Let's see what the what the gap between these two is going to be as they now come across the line, heading down towards turn 1 of the racetrack. 30 laps remaining here at Daytona, round towards turn 1, and the gap between them, let's have a look. Out of the first corner, the gap between them being 1.2 seconds. So that's how that looks at this stage as they go around turn number 2 on the racetrack now then, and 1.2 seconds of gap. So we'll keep an eye on that on this lap, as no mistakes being done so far by these guys. So far we've got 5 investigations to look at, so as mentioned, it should possibly be quite a busy night for the stewards, but we will wait and see on what their verdict is going to be. Round the left hander we go, as Dixon just comes out of the turn now then before going around the banking. So around the banking he goes, and he will now come down towards this back straight before approaching this this bus stop chicane now then, and so far not close enough to get hold of him at the moment. Andretti looks like he's slowly started to close back at them. Same with Ed Jones, who a little bit earlier on, before we had to turn off the commentary, spun off down at turn 1, and that probably cost him any chance of a victory here at Daytona. But I think that's pretty much that then, really, as Hinchcliffe continues to stretch his advantage out in front. Unless things goes wrong, I think it's pretty much Hinchcliffe's to lose now in this race. But let's see the gap then between Dixon and Fantarry at this time now then, as they will approach the pit straight on the racetrack. The gap between the pair of them as they will go down towards turn 1 is now, let's have a look, through turn 1 we go, and the gap being out of the turn, the gap being 1.1 seconds. That's how the look. There's a lock up there from Ryan Hunter-Reay, pushing hard to try and get away from Scott Dixon there. Dixon took a 10th out of him that lap, and well, he might have gained a little bit more there because of Ryan Hunter-Reay locking up into turn number 2, but he's still not within slipstream range of trying to get hold of Ryan Hunter-Reay at this stage, but he's taken a little bit more out of him at the moment. Out of turn number 4 we go on the racetrack, and then approaching turns 5 and then into turn 6, which will take him onto the oval itself. And so around that corner he goes, around the banking goes Scott Dixon, and as he tries to get within touching distance of Ryan Hunter-Reay, and so far we haven't had a retirement since Sebastian Bourdais. Hopefully I haven't jinxed that as I say that, but now heading down towards the bus stop chicane on the racetrack now then. Around the chicane we go, through the left, then the right, and then the left. You see all the tyre smoke that has happened all due to all the mistakes and the spins we've had around that corner. And very, very interesting race. That's why this race here at Daytona has been quite chaotic, it must be said. Around the banking we go, as they will soon approach the start-finish line on the racetrack. And so now coming off the turn now then before approaching the start-finish line. And let's see the gap this time by. I wouldn't be surprised if Dixon took a little bit out of Hunter-Reay that time by due to his lock-up into turn number 2, but we'll wait and see as the pair then will now approach the first corner on the racetrack now then, and the gap between them is now, it looks like Hunter-Reay stretched it a little bit, and he has by attempts, so he managed to gather it back up for the remainder of the lap. The gap now back up to 1.2 seconds, so increasing the gap by a tenth ahead of Scott Dixon, as now they just go out of turn 2. Dixon still struggling to find a way through on Hunter-Reay at this stage of the race, as that's that really. Meantime, Alonso starting to get right onto the backside now then of Will Power, so we have a battle for 12th going on between Power and Alonso now then, as they make their way around the banking before approaching the start finish line. Can Alonso possibly find a way through on Will Power at this stage, heading down the straight before approaching turn 1 on the racetrack. Can Alonso find a way through on Will Power now then, heading down towards turn 1. He's not close enough that time by, but he could possibly get him on the brakes a little bit into the first corner. Let's see the gap between them. Half a second the gap separates Power and Alonso. 9.4 seconds the gap between Alonso and Chavez from behind there. Round turn 2 we go. Can Alonso possibly find a way through into turn 4? Can he get a run on Power now then? He's got a good run out of this corner. He could try and get him into turn 4 now then. And he's having a go down the inside. Goes Fernando Alonso. Can he pull the move off into turn number 4? Power trying to stick with him. Power still on the outside of him now then as they go in towards turn 5. And Power, I think he's just got the edge, but Alonso has a little bit more grip around the outside. Has to use a little bit of time out there then. That could give Power the advantage, which it does. Power still in front and got a bit of a gap now in front of Fernando Alonso. But will Alonso try and get a run out of this banking before approaching the bus stop chicane? We'll have to wait and see. As they come out of the banking now, they're heading down towards the bus stop chicane on the racetrack now then, and Alonso not close enough. Clearly, him being around the outside too long definitely cost him time to Will Power, that's for sure. Around the bus stop chicane we go on the racetrack, as now they just go around them section of corners out and through the banking we go. Can Alonso try and get back on the prowl of Will Power? He doesn't seem to be close enough that time by, as Dixon hasn't really gained on to Fantarry as much as anticipated. Andretti getting close as well to the back of these guys as he looks to try and get onto the podium if he can, on top of trying to get Adrenaline's first points of the season after having a double retirement at Boa Motorsports Park last weekend. As now heading down towards the bus stop chicane. We'll have a look in a little bit and see what the gap is like between Dixon and Fantarry. Again, I apologise for the cough, and that's that then really, and I do apologise for the drops of frames there. We'll have a look and see what the gap is like this time by between Fantarry and Dixon. As now coming out of that left-hander. Let's see then what the gap is like between Dixon and Fantarry now then, as they'll soon cross the line. And the gap between them being, as they go into turn number 1, as we have specifically 26 laps remaining in this race. 26 laps to go here at Daytona. The gap 1.1 seconds. So from the last time we checked, Dixon has only taken a 10th out of Fantarry's leaders. Meantime, Alonso down the inside of Will Power. Can he get 12th? And yes, he can. Just before the braking zone, Alonso gets up to 12th, gets the move done on Will Power, and that is P12 for Fernando Alonso. And Will Power still, though, looking like he's going to try and cling on to him now then around the banking, as Power now then looks to the outside into this banking now then. Can he retake 12th from Fernando Alonso? Side by side they go around the banking now then. Alonso still trying to stick with him. They're still going to remain side by side up towards this corner now then, as it looked like Power was trying to push him a little bit there, and Alonso has to tuck back into Power's slipstream, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to try and dive it down the inside into turn 1, so he's going to keep it there and remain behind for the time being now then, as they make their way down towards turn 2. Will Alonso try and dive it down the inside? He thought about it but thought better of it, as now they just go around the hairpin on the racetrack. Alonso again in the slipstream of Will Power. Can he possibly try and get him into turn number 4 again? He's going to go to the inside. Can he pull off the move he did tried to pull off a couple of laps ago? Down the inside he goes, and he gets the place up into 12th place again. Goes Fernando Alonso, but will Power possibly get him back onto the oval? Around the left-hander we go, as he just comes off the corner now then before approaching the bankings, onto the oval bit of the track, that is. And around this banking then goes Alonso, but as you can see, Power still trying to hang him around the outside there then. Heading down the straight, side by side they go before approaching the bus stop chicane on the racetrack. And Power gets the place there and retakes 12th. Alonso backing out, probably trying to avoid a crash into that chicane. He doesn't want to be taken out after being spun off there twice, while having made through a few mistakes throughout that chicane all race, which has most certainly possibly cost him the win here at Daytona. As now around this banking we go, Alonso again in the slipstream of Will Power. Can he try and get the move done? He's going to go to the outside. Can Alonso try and pull this one off this time? He's already on the outside. Can he use his Honda engine to good effect, which has got a little bit more speed, it seems, than the Chevrolet, as I think we touched upon during the oval preseason test. Around the outside we go. Goes Fernando Alonso. Side by side we go. And I don't know if there was a little bit of contact there, but Alonso has got the move stick and he's back up into 12th place. Maybe Power could possibly get him back into turn 2. Alonso goes defensive just in case. And Alonso holds on to 12th for the moment. Maybe Power could possibly give Alonso a taste of his own medicine from the previous lap and try and pass him up towards turn 4 again. Power in the slipstream, looking to the inside of Fernando Alonso. Can he get the move done on the 3-time IFMC champion? Down the inside goes Will Power, as Alonso's still sticking with him at the moment, but it looks like Power just adds to the edge, and Power retakes 12th from Alonso, that time by Dixon. Let's see the gap between him and Fantarry at this stage, and then we'll get back to that battle for 12th, as Hinchcliffe is now on lap 57 of 80 in this race, so we now have specifically 24 laps remaining here at Daytona. The gap between Dixon and Fantarry is now going out of turn 1, just going off the turn, 1.1 seconds, so the same gap as it was from the last time we checked on there, as Alonso has retaken 12th from Will Power before the chicane, so back up to 12th again goes Fernando Alonso into the bus stop chicane, goes the pair of them, and well, that's that really. Out of the chicane we go, as they will soon go around the banking yet again. And now around the banking goes Alonso and Power now then on the racetrack. So now we will approach the pit straight in a little bit. As now again Power in the slipstream of Alonso, looking to the outside of the Spaniard, as he now makes his way down the pit straight, and he just breezes past there. Power again up into 12th place. And I think at the same time these two are starting to gain onto Fittipaldi in front, I think, for P number 11. No, it's a Montoya. We've got a yellow flag, I think. Down at that corner, there's a car that's pulled off. That looks like a Fantarry car, I think, that's pulled off to the side of the track. Is that Alexander Rossi? It is Rossi. Rossi has crashed it at turn number 2. The championship leader has binned it in the wall. And, wow, Alexander Rossi is out of the race, and we're down to 13 runners here at Daytona. The championship leader has binned it, and I'm just trying to think now what that will do in terms of the championship, because where is Jones at the moment? Jones is currently 5th at this stage. Pagenaud is in 8th. I think if it stays like this, I could be wrong, but I think if it stays like this, I think Jones will lead the Drivers' Championship. That's what I think will happen. So I think if it stays like this, Jones will lead the Drivers' Championship. Who from, I'm not sure. As Hinchcliffe, we're just viewing now, as just started lap number 58 of 80 here at Daytona. So 23 laps remaining in this race as he goes around turn 1 on the racetrack. We're 8 minutes away from the 6:30 mark, so we've been racing for around about 2 hours. And I think I've mentioned this already, but I did kind of predict that it was looking like it was going to be quite a long race here at Daytona. And it's definitely done that, that's for sure. So now, as you see there, Hinchcliffe continuing to lead the way at the moment, as Power has again passed Alonso, but this time for P11, of course, because they've been moved up as a result of Rossi's retirement. So up until 11th goes Power, and again Alonso finding himself behind the Aussie, as now they go around the banking, as they slowly but surely also closing onto Juan Pablo Montoya for 10th place. So this could get quite interesting as well. Alonso again looking around the outside of Will Power. Side by side they go before approaching the pit straight. And can Alonso retake the place again from the Australian as they now approach this pit straight? Around they go. Alonso and Power still side by side as they approach turn 1. Into turn 1, Alonso just has the edge and he gets back up into 11th place. Can he try and now get hold of former F1 racer in real life, Juan Pablo Montoya? Round into turn number 2 we go. And Alonso trying to keep back Power as much as possible. Montoya currently holding on to that top 10 place. And he's got Alonso and Power starting to breathe down his neck as they go into turn number 4. Power not close enough to get a move done on Alonso. Alonso staying in front for the time being now then, as they now make their way up towards turn 5, which will take them back onto the oval. And so round this left-hander we go. Can Power get the move done again on him now then, as they just go around this banking? And Power now then right in the slipstream of Fernando Alonso, Can he possibly get the move done on Fernando now then, as he looks to the outside of the Spaniard? Side by side they go, and Power again retakes 11th from Fernando Alonso, and Power is already in Montoya's slipstream, which is possibly preventing Alonso from repassing him into the bus stop chicane. So that's pretty much that really. Through the bus stop we go, and Alonso now then doing whatever he can to try and get hold of Montoya in front of him. And so that's pretty much that really. Is Alonso now then looking to the outside of Will Power, as now they will go side by side down towards the pit straight now then on the racetrack. And will Alonso pull the move off that, and as he tries to go around the outside of Will Power and trying to get the edge off Power now. Then Power still sticking with him at the moment, but Alonso has the edge again and retakes 11. They've been swapping places for the last few laps now. I think it's been getting quite boring between the pair of them, it must be said, but entertaining for us as a viewer. But now the pair of them are right on the backside of Montoya as they look to fight him for 10th place. So could Alonso try and get a car between himself and Power if he can? He's going to try and look to the inside of Montoya if he can. Side by side down towards turn number 4 now then. Alonso tries to have a look, but Montoya looks like he's going to close the door and hold on to 10th. Can Power try and take full advantage? Power to the inside of Alonso into turn number 5, and it was always going to be tight, but Power has to fend back for the moment, as Alonso now back in the slipstream of Juan Pablo Montoya as they now make their way around the banking now then. And sorry for the drops of frames. And now round the banking we go. Can Alonso find a way through on Juan Pablo Montoya, or will Power find a way through on Alonso before that? Down the straight we go now. They're both of them in the slipstream with somebody. Power now then looking to the inside. Alonso thought about having a look, but then realised Power was there too. This is going to be tight and so close to contact, but how on earth they didn't, I have no idea. Power gets back up into 11th place, just being able to have enough room to get by on the Spaniard, but now Montoya's got a little bit of breathing space between himself and both Power and Alonso. At this stage, Alonso again around the outside of Power. Can he try and pull the move off again around this left-hander now on the racetrack? Coming down the straight now then. Can he get by as they go side by side around this left-hander? And Alonso trying to get the edge if he can on Power. Can he get the move done? And yes, he can. Alonso able to hold on. And get back up into P number 11 at this stage, as Montoya currently 10th for the moment now then, as Alonso and Power look to try and duke it out with him as well, but Power still sticking with Alonso, it must be said. Round the left-hander we go, as Power again looks to the inside of Fernando Alonso, and again will he pull the move off? Yes, he will. Up into 11th again goes Will Power in the Dorado. They're just swapping places left and centre. Sorry, right and centre. So that's that really as far as I'm concerned. Meantime, what's going on between Dixon and Fantarry? Well, again, Dixon not been able to get within the slipstream of Fantarry at the moment. We've got 20 laps left here at Daytona, and I do apologise again for the drop of frames. Hopefully it doesn't disconnect us off, as it's 1.1 seconds still. So both Fantarry and Dixon, you have to say, probably lapping around about the same pace as each other as they come out of turn 2 on the racetrack now then. As meantime, look how close Jones is now to the back of Andretti. So Andretti has not been able to close up on the battle for third, but he's now got company in the form of Ed Jones, as Jones looks to try and fight him for 4th place here in this race. As meantime, Power has left Alonso for dust. Has Alonso made a mistake perhaps at the bus stop? Let's have a look. Well, Alonso, they were 3 wide going into that corner, and Alonso just went far too deep. And, well, has basically cost himself some more time. That's the 4th time he's made a mistake at that bus stop chicane today. And Alonso down into off again. And now it's just Power and Montoya fighting it out for 10th place now. Then as Alonso has just dropped back as a result of that mistake. Meantime, speaking of which, Power looking around the outside of Juan Pablo Montoya as they go down the straight before approaching turn 1 on the racetrack now then. Will Power get the move done on Montoya for that top 10 place? He's trying to look around the outside and swoop it around the outside of Montoya down towards turn 1 on the racetrack, and he's been able to pull it off, and Power is up into 10th place. A good pass from Power, P10 for the Australian, as he now heads down towards turn 2 on the racetrack. Montoya doesn't think about trying to dive it down the inside into that corner. And now look how close Jones is to the back of Andretti in towards the bus stop chicane. We go on the racetrack now then. Around we go through the bus stop chicane. We're 1 minute away now then from the 6:30 mark. And then around the banking we will go. And will Jones do the move on Marco Andretti? He's going to look all the way around the outside of him if he can. Heading down towards the straight, we will soon go. Jones swooping around the outside. Andretti and Jones side by side. Down towards the pit straight we go. Can he pull the move off as they go down the pit straight now? Then side by side they go. Andretti still trying to stick with Jones as best as possible. Heading down towards turn 1. And Andretti able to hold him off for the moment and hold on to third place. So nicely defended there from Marco Andretti in the Adrenaline Motorsport car. As now they head down towards turn 2. On the racetrack now then, and that's pretty much that then for him really as far as he is concerned. Now going around that left-hander there then went Graham Rahal into the hairpin. Then goes Rahal now then as he just comes off the turn heading down towards this left-hander on the racetrack. And so now up towards the next hairpin we go on the track now. Then round he goes. Graham Rahal so far trying to get hold of JR Hildebrand, but Hildebrand still with quite a comfortable gap in front at this stage. As meantime Power still fighting it out with Montoya. Montoya retook him for 10th, unseen by the cameras. As now into turn 2 we go. Alonso slowly closing in onto this scrap again for 10th place. Power in the slipstream of Juan Pablo Montoya. He's trying to have a look to the inside. Montoya fends off for the moment, but can Power possibly dive it into turn 4 to pass the Colombian? It doesn't look like he's close enough, and he's going to hang back for the moment now then. Around turn 4 he goes then before approaching turn 5 on the racetrack now then. Around the left-hander he goes, and let's see, Power currently trying to find a way through on Juan Pablo Montoya as he tries to find a way around the outside on the track. And let's see then if Power can find a way from Montoya down towards the bus stop chicane on the racetrack now. Then Power is now going to come up now then towards the bus stop chicane. Power looking to the inside. Montoya trying to shove him a bit down towards the chicane, and Power pulls the move off to perfection. Up into 10th place again goes the Australian of Will Power, as he now comes out of that bus stop chicane and around the banking he will now go. As meantime Chilton looking lonely in 9th place. Meantime Jones is up to 4th. He's past Andretti, so up to 4th place goes Ed Jones in the Target Andy Graham racing car. And P4 going the way of the Emiratti's driver. Next target for him is 3rd place man Scott Dixon, who's still stuck behind Ryan Hunter-Reay for 2nd place, with Hinchcliffe continuing to extend his lead at the front as he tries to look for Martini Energia's 4th career victory in IFMC IndyCar, along with his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. He was never able to achieve one at his old team, the now defunct Red Bull IndyCar team, but his move to Martini has definitely paid off, and so far he's looking quite strong for a first ever win. But we'll just have to wait and see how this rest of the race pans out as he just comes out of that left-hander before approaching the pit straight, as he will soon start lap 64 of 80 here at Daytona. So we will have specifically let's have a look. We will have specifically 17 laps to go here at Daytona. So 17 laps remaining here at the Daytona International Speedway. We've just passed the 6:30 mark by 2 minutes, in fact. So for anybody wondering, meantime, Montoya now coming under threat again from Fernando Alonso. Looks like Power starting to get his foot down just a bit. I don't know if Montoya is still able to cling on to his slipstream at the moment. Heading down this back straight before approaching the bus stop chicane now. Then Alonso down the inside of Juan Pablo Montoya. Can he pull the move off? Sparks coming off the back of Alonso's car. And in fact, Alonso trying to pull the move off on Power as well, as they go into the chicane. And Alonso, has he outdone himself again? Yes, he has. Alonso again making these silly errors, and he's down to 12th yet again in this race. And well, what can you say about that? I'm guessing Oliver Glazberg is not very happy with him in this race, that's for sure, because he's cost himself again another 10th place, being again a bit too ambitious with the slipstream. But now Montoya now looking around the outside of Will Power again as they continue to scrap it out for 10th place. Down the straight we go before approaching the pit straight now then, and Montoya, has he just got the edge on willpower again? Side by side they go, sparks coming off the back of each other's car, and Montoya just has the edge and retakes 10th from Power into turn 1 there. Then will Power possibly try and get him back into turn 2 if that's possible, and I think he's just a little bit too far back. While I say that, Montoya has gone for a spin. Montoya has locked up, gone for a spin. Power gifted 10th place easily. And, well, Alonso, will he get through into 11th? Well, he will be right behind him, along with Gabby Chavez, Montoya's fellow compatriot. So, well, Montoya has made a mistake, and that's an easy way through for Power to get up into 10th place, as now Chavez is all over the back of Alonso yet again in this race now then. As now Chavez looks to the inside of Fernando Alonso. Alonso defends the inside, and to ensure that Chavez doesn't try and pull a move off into turn 4 there then, so Alonso fends him off that time by. As that's that for the moment, as everybody else has separated itself out. Here is the battle for the bottom end of the race. Battle for 11th between Montoya, Alonso and Chavez now then. Around the banking we will now go right on board with Fernando Alonso as he tries to catch back up to Juan Pablo Montoya in this race. And as you can see, look on the right hand side, Chavez has gone all the way around the outside of him, and Chavez takes 12th place from Fernando Alonso there then. So up into 12th place goes Gabby Chavez, as he will now try and get Montoya into the bus stop chicane if that's possible. Around the chicane we go on the racetrack now then. So now just coming off the turn, as we will soon go around the banking now then on the track. So around the banking we go. And so just going around the section of corners of Alonso again, trying to look all the way around the outside. The pair of them still stuck in the slipstream of Juan Pablo Montoya, heading down this straight side by side go Alonso and Chavez now then. Through this banking now then we go down the pit straight, as Alonso got the edge on Chavez this time by. It doesn't look like it. Alonso's still there, but Chavez holds on to 12th for the moment as he still tries to chase down his fellow compatriot Juan Pablo Montoya, heading down towards turn number 2 on the track. Chavez not close enough. Chavez of course under investigation for that collision with Alonso a little bit earlier on in the race. As now we will approach the left-hander on the track, as Chavez tries to find a way through on Montoya and isn't able to make the move stick. And having saying that, well, he's left the inside door open for Alonso, but he manages to close it just in time to hold on to 12th place for the moment, as he just come out of turn 4 on the racetrack now. Then round towards this next left-hander we go, and Chavez still stuck behind Montoya for the moment. Right on board with the Macamo driver, who is now stuck behind Montoya's slipstream. Around the banking we go. Can he find a way through on Juan Pablo Montoya? He's going to look to the outside and maybe to the inside if he's lucky enough. I don't think he can. Down towards this next corner on the track now, then looking to the inside. Can he pull the move off? Down the inside goes Gabby Chavez. Alonso also trying to follow through as well on Montoya, and having to back down, and again Chavez and him make contact. And well, what on earth is going on with Alonso's driving today? That's the second time he and Chavez have come to blows, and that's the 5th time Alonso's made any form of mistake around that chicane. And well, Alonso getting a little bit sloppy it seems with his driving. That will have to be investigated after the race. That's another collision between these two, and well, that's that really as far as they are concerned. And well, Alonso pushing Chavez off again into that turn, and so that's that really as far as they are concerned now. Then Andretti going around the bus stop chicane now then, and as you can see, look how close, in fact Dixon's actually got a little bit closer to Fantarry than last time around, from the last time we checked on these guys, which has been a little bit of a while. But now as it comes down the straight, what's the gap between Dixon and Fantarry this time by? Hinchcliffe has started like 67 of 80 here at Daytona, so we now have specifically 14 laps to go here in this race. Down towards turn 1 we go. What's the gap between Dixon and Fantarry this time by? And it's 0.9 seconds, so it's actually under a second between these two. Around turn 2 we go. Dixon still trying to cling on to the back of Fantarry as they continue to scrap it out for second place here at Daytona. Around the left-hander we go, and now up towards the next right-hander we will go. Around he goes, around turn number 4 on the racetrack now, then heading down towards turn 5. And so now into turn 5 we go on the racetrack. As I say, just comes out of that turn before approaching the banking. And let's see now then as he'll go around this banking. Dixon trying to get within the slipstream of Hunter-Reay, trying to cling onto it to maybe get a perfect chance, maybe in the next couple of laps or so, to possibly try and grab second from Ryan Hunter-Reay's e-power car now. Then heading down this back straight before approaching the bus stop chicane now. Then Dixon really trying to line up Hunter-Reay for a pass in towards the chicane now. Then we will go round the left and then the right and then into the left-hander again. We will soon go. And now around this left-hander we will go. And Dixon still stuck behind Ryan Hunter-Reay for the moment. And Hinchcliffe meantime starting lap 68 of 80, so 13 laps to go for the Mayor of Hinchtown for him to get his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. Out of turn 1 he goes before approaching turn 2 on the track now then as he goes around the section of corners on the racetrack, as he just goes out of turn 2 before approaching the next few turns on the racetrack, trying to get up close to the curb as possible. And now up towards turn number 4 as Hinchcliffe now then continues to increase the gap out in front of the moment. There's Andretti in the back, sorry, Jones in the background. Andretti's starting to fall back more from Jones. It looks like Jones might be starting to close up on this scrap, so we could end up maybe having a freeway scrap for second place by the end of the race, but we'll wait and see how the race sort of fares as we get towards the closing stages of this race here at Daytona. It's been quite a long one, it must be said, due to the length of laps we have and of course how long this track is. So been a very long race, but a very exciting one as well. A lot of chaotic things have happened and 6 investigations need to be done by tonight. So now around the left-hander we go on the track now then, and that's that as far as they are concerned. So now approaching the bus stop chicane, and in towards the bus stop chicane we will go on the racetrack. Jones currently in 4th, and he will soon come up towards the banking. Around the banking he goes. We'll see, and I'll look and see what the gap is like between him and Dixon in a little bit. So now we head down towards this pit straight now then on the track, and so now across towards these next section of corners we will go on the track, and let's see what the gap is like between Ed Jones and third place man sorry about that, is now going around the left-hander we go, as we will now approach the hairpin. And I didn't see the gap because I got distracted, and so we'll have a look at the gap next time by. Dixon still not within slipstream range to try and pull a pass on Ryan Hunter-Reay, as now they go around the banking now then on the track. And well, I say that it looks like Dixon might have got himself a little bit closer that time by to Ryan Hunter-Reay, as now up towards the bus stop chicane we will go on the track now then, as we now approach the bus stop chicane. And that's that then really, and through the bus stop. Sorry about that again, as now let's see what the gap is like between Dixon and Ryan Hunter-Reay this time by, with 11 laps to go here at Daytona. Around turn 1 we go. The gap between them 0.9 seconds still, so both still lapping around about the same pace as each other. And look how close Jones has now got to the back of these guys now then, as he just makes his way around the corner now then. And Jones looking to try and get himself into that frame for second place. At this stage I think he will be leading the Drivers' Championship. I don't know by how much, but I think if it stays like this, Jones will lead the Drivers' Championship come the end of the race due to Alexander Rossi's retirement. As now through the left hander we go. Jones now then trying to get himself close to these two right in front, but still quite a bit to go before he's right within the prowl of them at this stage now then. As meantime, Hinchcliffe is soon coming up now to lap Fernando Alonso. So Alonso, you can tell how much in the wars Alonso's been this race, it must be said, and quite scruffy, it must be said, for Alonso in terms of his driving, and including the collision with Chavez, the second collision that is. And of course they had a collision earlier, did Chavez and Alonso. Wouldn't be surprised if there's now tension between the Spaniard and the Colombian, as Hinchcliffe now then starts lap 71 of 80, so 10 laps to go for the race leader, so he continues to stretch his advantage at the front as the sparks continue to fly out the back of his Martini now then, heading down this straight. Dixon, can he try and find a way through on Hunter Ray as they go down towards turn 1 on the racetrack? Sparks continue to fly out the back of the Dorado. Through turn 1 goes Scott Dixon as he tries to get up close to the curb on the outside, heading down towards the right-hander. And so coming off the turn now then, and we didn't see the gap that time by, but it looked like it probably would have been the same, because not really much has been closed up between these two at this stage now then. Up towards turn number 4, and Jones still not really catching up to these guys at the moment. Dixon trying everything he can to still tug within Hunter Ray's slipstream, but at the moment things just aren't seem to be kicking for him at this stage. Round the left hander we go. Look like Dixon there. I don't know if that was a bit of understeer there from Dixon, but it does kind of show a little bit that the Kiwi is pushing very hard to try and get this second place off Hunter Ray by the end of the race. Hunter Ray looking for his first ever IFMC IndyCar podium. He's never had one, of course. E-Power still yet to get a podium in IFMC IndyCar. They could have had it last week with Alonso, but he broke down on the last lap, and surely this weekend could be their moment of finally getting that podium. As now around the chicane, they would have preferred the victory had it not been for the collision with Chavez, but that's racing at the end, and racing can be cruel. They'll have to bounce back next time, which is actually at Phoenix, the second of I'm trying to work out in my head actually, second of 4 new locations for this season's championship, and it's the first oval race of the season as well, so it should be very interesting to see which teams will do well on the ovals. As now let's see the gap this time by between Hunter Ray and Dixon, as now they will come down towards turn 1 on the racetrack. Let's see the gap between Hunter Ray and Dixon coming out of turn 1, and the gap now being 0.9 seconds, so that's how that looks between the pair of them at this stage. Around the right hand there goes Dixon as he uses a tad bit of curb on the outside there then. And for anybody wondering who's watching this stream in 14 minutes, the GP4 DTM OC race is on in 14 minutes. It'll be very interesting to see what goes on in that race. I'm not sure if this race will finish just before, just after that race starts, but we'll wait and see on that. We're going around turn 5 now then, as now going around the banking we will now go on the racetrack. Dixon still stuck behind Hunter Ray. Hunter Ray doing a good job keeping that gap consistent between himself and Dixon at the moment. Hunter Ray doing whatever it takes to try and get his first ever IndyCar podium in this series, and E-Power's first as well. And that's that really, as now they will approach the bus stop chicane on the track. On the left, then the right, and then into the left-hander again we will go. And Dixon not really gaining as much as he would have anticipated now on the E-Power car. He's just not really trying to grasp the opportunity at the moment to try and grab that. Let's see what the gap is like this time by 8 laps remaining for James Hinchcliffe. He's now on lap 73 of 80 here at Daytona, and the gap between Dixon and Hunter Ray is now, let's have a look as they go around this banking now, then heading down towards turn 1. The gap now being down towards turn 1. The gap now, let's have a look, just going out of turn 1, 0.8 seconds. So that's how that looks at this stage. 2.1 seconds between Jones and Dixon now then as I go around turn 2 on the track. And so now just coming off that turn, heading around the left-hander. And Jones not really catching up as well. I wonder if Jones is now starting to settle into a little bit of a rhythm in terms of his tyres and just trying to get the car to the end of the race and just probably settle for 4th, just thinking about his championship, I think, is what he's probably thinking of at the moment. Through the left-hander goes Scott Dixon. And so he's just gone out of that corner, and so he's trying everything within his power to get Fantarry in front. As Hinchcliffe still hasn't lapped Alonso yet. He's not even close enough to get to the Spaniard at the moment. So probably Hinchcliffe just settling into a little bit of a rhythm. He's got a big gap in front of Ryan Fantarry, so there's no really need to push for the mayor of Hinchtown, as he now just goes around the final banking. Now they're headed down the pit straight as James Hinchcliffe is about to start lap 74 of 80, so 7 laps to go for the Canadian James Hinchcliffe, as he now heads down towards turn 1 on the track. Now then, sparks continuing to fly at the back of his Martini at this point, and a very, very long race, it has to be said, around here at Daytona. The gap between Dixon and Fantarry probably be the same, but we'll check anyway heading into turn 1, and the gap being coming out of that first corner 0.9. But having said that, of course, Jones has caught up a little bit to Dixon at the moment, and that's pretty much that then, really. So he's so far closing up to Dixon, and he looks like he could try and grab a podium place if he can by the end of the race, as he now makes his way around turn 4 on the track. Now then, heading in towards the left-hander. So around the left-hander we will go on the track, as Jones now then just comes off the turn, heading around the banking. He'll soon go excuse me, on the track. Around this left-hander we go, and Ed Jones now then just going down towards the bus stop chicane now then on the track, and we'll have a look and see in a little bit what the gap is like between him and Dixon. Looks like Dixon's still not really gaining much onto Fantarry in these closing stages, but we'll see what the gap is between Jones and Dixon as soon as they come out of the final banking and out of course this bus stop chicane around the track. Around the left-hander we go, and Chavez is back in the pits unscheduledly, and there's your reason. He's got a brake problem. So Gabby Chavez on the closing stage of the race has suffered a brake problem and has had to come back into the pits to get that repaired. So his disastrous race continues. It does lift Alonso up to 12th, and on top of that as well, he's now a lap down to James Hinchcliffe, the race leader. And so a disaster for him as far as he's concerned, as Fantarry continues to pull away the gap now. He's now getting up to 1.1. He's pulled away by 0.2 out of Dixon, as it's down to 1.4 between Jones and Dixon. So Jones took out 0.4 that lap on Scott Dixon. Now around the left-hander we go, up towards turn 4 goes Ed Jones in the Target Andy Graham racing car, as he now just comes out of the turn. And now up towards the left-hander we will soon go on the track around this left-hander, as he now just comes out of the turn. Now they're heading down towards the banking. Around the banking now then we'll go Ed Jones, as he tries to reel in on Scott Dixon, who's continuously now starting to lose time to second place man Ryan Fantarry, and may have his sights set on Ed Jones, as Dixon tries to prevent any chance of it being a all Honda podium. Sorry, not an all Honda podium. I forgot Target and Graham don't have Honda anymore. They have Chevrolet. But still, either way, it does look like that Honda are going to be taking maximum points in the Manufacturers' Championship, with them being 1 and 2 at the moment. Of course, Hinchcliffe currently leading the race with Fantarry second, and then 3rd and 4th will be Chevrolet's best results going towards the manufacturers, with Dixon 3rd and Jones in 4th. I think Chevrolet will still lead the manufacturers if it stays like this, but I could be wrong on that, as it looks like the clouds are starting to dim a little bit here at Daytona. So the clouds starting to dim just a tad bit as they just go around this left-hander on the track. And in fact, it looks like actually a little bit of a red sky is emerging. In fact, if you can just look in the background, it looks like there's a bit of a red sky starting to form at Daytona. Unless it's just my eyes playing up. But it does look like there's a bit of a red sky starting to form. So it's like the track's slowly starting to turn into sunset. So clearly the model who did this, give him props for that. Because, well, he's done a very good job on that, it must be said, to get the clouds to do that, or the sky to do that in a way. Yeah, it's starting to shade out a bit now then, as the sun starts to peek behind the clouds. As now we go around the banking now then on the track. We didn't quite check and see what the gap was like a little bit earlier. As now they just go around the banking now then, around this left-hander. We will now go. And so now down towards this bus stop chicane. We will now go. As now approaching the chicane on the track through the left. Then the right, and then into the left-hander. We will now go now then. As now we just go around this banking. Jones doing all he can to try and find a way through on the guy in front, which is Scott Dixon. Well, we'll look and see this time by what the gap is between the pair of them. 4 laps to go for race leader James Hinchcliffe. He's now on lap 77 of 80 here at Daytona. So 4 to go for the mayor of Hinchtown in the Martini Energia. The gap between Jones and Dixon this time by, as they go down towards turn 1, is now, let's have a look, through turn 1 we go, and the gap is, let's have a look now then, the gap being, as they approach turn number 2, 1 second exactly. So 1 second is the gap between the pair of them at this stage. And in fact, it does look like, in fact, Dixon might be starting to close up a tad bit again to Ryan Hunter-Reay. So maybe we could have a three-way scrap for second place within these last 4 laps of the race. As now we go around turn 4 for the 4th to last time. And in fact, the sun has actually peeked back out in flax. So that's pretty much that really. And it's still a bit of a red sky in the background. So we do have still a little bit of sunset going on at this stage, unless it is my eyes playing up, and that's that. But it does look a little bit like a red sky in the background. So around at the left-hander we go, then goes Scott Dixon, as he's got Ed Jones still trying to chase him down, but Dixon still not giving up on Hunter-Reay right in front for second place, as he will now approach the bus stop chicane now then on the track. Up towards the bus stop go the pair of them now then, through the left and then through the right, and then into the left-hander. They will soon go again on the track now then. Around the banking goes Dixon, as he still tries to put some pressure on Ryan Hunter-Reay now then. Around the left-hander he goes, as he just goes around this banking now then, heading down the straight. And so now around the left-hander he will now go on the track, as Hunter-Reay still got a bit of a gap in front of the moment. Dixon, what's the gap between him and Hunter-Reay? This time by heading down towards turn 1, and the gap is now, let's have a look, 1 second exactly, and Jones is now under a second behind Dixon. It's now down to 0.9 between Jones and Dixon at this stage now. Then 3 laps to go for James Hinchcliffe. Round turn 2 goes Ed Jones, still trying to put some pressure on Scott Dixon in front. Around this long left-hander we go, as they will now approach the right-hander on the track. And coming out of that left-hander before approaching the next left-hander on the track. And Jones now then still trying to put some pressure on Dixon as best as possible in this race, as they'll soon go around the banking now then on the track. And so around the banking then they go. Through they go. Can Jones still try and find a way through on Scott Dixon if he can? Coming around that back, and a promise for Hunter-Reay! Hunter-Reay has got a problem! Oh no, what a shame for Ryan Hunter-Reay. The E-Power car has got a problem. And a chance for a podium has yet again been slipped under the fingers of E-Power. Ryan Hunter-Reay pulls off with transmission problem. Ryan Hunter-Reay is out of the race, and we're down to 12 runners. I think it will be classified anyway, because I think he has done 95% of the race distance I think he needs to do. But Hunter-Reay, with 3 laps to go, retires with a transmission problem. That lifts Dixon up to second and Jones onto the podium now then. So more bad luck for E-Power. And well, they just can't seem to get a break. Whenever that's the second race in a row when they've had a chance for a podium and the car just lets them down. So Hunter-Reay retires with a transmission problem, as we're now on the penultimate lap of the race, lap 79 of 80, and it's 0.8 seconds between Jones and Dixon. It's still not over yet for this battle for second. Jones could try and snatch one more place before the race is finished. Jones now right on the prow of Scott Dixon. for second place now then, as they make their way around turn 4 for the penultimate time. Out of turn 4 we go now then, before approaching the left-hander now then. Jones will have to use the oval section to try and get himself a little bit closer to Dixon, try and get himself in the toe of the Dorado, as now through the left-hander we go on the track. And now just going around this banking we will now go, and Jones just looks a little bit too far back to challenge Dixon at that point, and Dixon's just got to really keep his nose, and no, that's why! And Jones has now got a problem. The man who was about to take the lead in the Drivers' Championship has got a brake problem on the penultimate lap of the race. It's kind of a repeat of Barber Motorsport Park last weekend, with so many drivers having problems towards the back end of the race. Meantime, the mayor of Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe, is about to start his final lap here at Daytona. It's been a fantastic race for James Hinchcliffe as far as he's concerned. He started way down in 10th place, in fact, so he was just in the top 10, but he took advantage of all the carnage that happened in front of him, made up places at the start, and just made his one-stop strategy work to perfection. And despite a little bit of pressure from Jones briefly before he spun, he's just been in a world of his own. If he can just keep this up, he's looking good to get Martini's 4th career victory and his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. Jones into the pits to repair that brake problem. He needs to repair it quickly. He doesn't want to lose too much time because he still has an opportunity to lead the Drivers' Championship with Rossi out of the race. So let's see, it's a quick stop, 7.9. Where's Jones going to come out after this impromptu pit stop? Through goes Pagenaud, up into 6th place. He could even have a chance to lead the Drivers' Championship. He did finish 3rd last time at Barber, let's not forget. So where is Jones going to come out? He's going to rejoin in 7th place. So he will, I think, lead the championship still if it remains like this, with Pagenaud, I think, possibly in 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship. So it does leave Dixon up a clear 2nd place now, and it puts Andretti in the adrenaline car in 3rd place. It's impressive stuff from him as far as he is concerned, and about to pick up Adrenaline's first ever podium in only their 2nd IFMC IndyCar race. But meantime, here's James Hinchcliffe after an amazing race in terms of strategy. It's been a long race, but it was well worth it in the end. A very chaotic race in the end. But in the end, it was James Hinchcliffe who's going to win here at Daytona. Congratulations to him and the Martini Energia team. He takes his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. Martini's 4th in their career. James Hinchcliffe wins on the road course of the Daytona International Speedway. Congratulations to him indeed. Scott Dixon is going to cross the line in 2nd place. Marco Andretti for Adrenaline Motorsport is going to cross the line in 3rd place to take Adrenaline Motorsport's first ever podium in only their 2nd race. What a fantastic race for Marco Andretti, making his 2-stop strategy work. It's P3 for Marco Andretti, P12 for Gary Chavez and under investigation. JR Hildebrand finishes in 4th, Graham Rahal 5th, so some big points for Martini today. Simon Pagenaud is going to cross the line in 6th place in the end. It's going to be P7 for Ed Jones. I think he will lead the Drivers' Championship, but we will wait and see on that as he now crosses the line where he finishes. Max Chilton is going to cross the line in 8th. A good finish for him in the SIC, and it's going to be P8 for him in the end there then, as he will now come down this straight now then. It's going to be Chilton. He's going to cross the line in 8th place for SIC. Will Power will cross the line in 9th place. 10th will be Montoya, and 11th, close behind, will be Fernando Alonso. So P9 goes to Will Power, P10 to Juan Pablo Montoya in the end there then. And Fernando Alonso, of what could have been for Fernando, he finishes in 11th place, and of course under investigation as well. But there you have it then. In the end, James Hinchcliffe is the winner here at Daytona. A very, very long race indeed, which has probably worn me out, I'm pretty sure of it. But James Hinchcliffe in the Martini Energia wins here at the Daytona International Speedway road course. Fantastic victory for the mayor of Hinchtown to get his first ever IFMC IndyCar win. So there you have it then, guys. After all of that, here was the results of the race here at Daytona. James Hinchcliffe won the race with Scott Dixon 2nd, Marco Andretti 3rd, JR Hildebrand 4th, Graham Rahal 5th, Simon Pagenaud 6th, followed by Ed Jones 7th, Max Chilton 8th, Will Power 9th, Juan Pablo Montoya 10th, Fernando Alonso in 11th, with Gabby Chavez 12th. Ryan Hunter-Ray classified in 13th, and the retirements, here we go. The retirements were Alexander Rossi, and if we scroll down to the rest of them, Sebastian Bourdais, Joseph Newgarden, Pietro Fittipaldi, Helio Castroneves, Robert Wickens, Takuma Sato, Felix Rosenqvist, and Tony Kanaan. They were the retirements of the race here at Daytona. So let's see who set the fastest lap of the race then, who's going away with the bonus point, and it was Scott Dixon with a 1 minute 37.465. So the Eldorado driver, along with his second place, is going to pick up a bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. He was 1/10 quicker than Gabby Chavez in the end there then. So there you have it then, guys. That has been it from a very long race here at Daytona. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a very chaotic race indeed, and a very exciting one at the same time as well. But that has been it then, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you then, guys, next weekend at the Phoenix, well, I say Phoenix Raceway, but it's now known as the ISM Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona, for the first oval race of the season. It'll be very interesting to see how this one goes about, and it's also a very slow oval as well. So the first slow oval, I think, will be off to in IFMC IndyCar history. So until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you've enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next weekend at the ISM Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona for round 3 of the championship. Until then, take care.